This conference will now be recorded.
At least they don't have my yogurt mustache like they do in those rooms. No, paddleboard takes a while. Now Steve's good at work. He's great at work.
Okay, we will call the meeting to order. Let's all rise for pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I do want to ask for just really with the board today a little bit of patience because we've got Gary, who is interim district manager, is out. He's not feeling well today, and Laura had an emergency she had to address. So I think she's going to be dialing in. So we just we're running a little thin today. So we will start off. We've got Georgia here acting as our on-site administrator. So who do we have for public comments?
Okay, Matt Chitwood, several agenda items.
Good afternoon. I had a couple things I wanted to go over that are on the agenda for this meeting. First one is our draft proposal for water rate increase. I don't want to get into a whole lot of detail. I'm sure there's a lot more people that know a lot more about it than I do. I just have a real angst to looking at increasing every year over the next 4 years. I think in general, encompassing it all down, that I would rather see us trying to be more like Naples and pushing down than trying to strive to be like Venice, which has higher rates. That doesn't, and as far as the draft proposal that's supposed to notify the minutes or notify the public, that didn't really sell me on why we need to increase our rates. As far as a chart showing that we're lower than everybody else, I kind of like that we're lower than everybody else, and I think that we should do our best to stay as low as we can when it comes to not only water but other taxes and fees. The second item I want to just give my comment on is the soccer fields and the use by the soccer fields. I haven't been out as a heavy field user. I haven't been out in the last couple weeks on Sundays, but the weeks that I have gone out there on Sundays, it's already being used heavily by people that aren't paying. So if there's a way for us to get compensated for the usage that's occurring out there, I think we really need to take that seriously and explore how we can make sure that that's happening and being done the right way. And I don't know what kind of oversight there's going to be on a weekend or on a Sunday, but that's something that if we can get compensated for the use, I think that's better than not being compensated or having to police it. As far as lake restoration, I'm looking at the SRF loan for 20 years, and I understand all the trying to spread it out for 20 years. I really, $5.7 million more to restore 8 lakes, and then the hundreds of lakes we have in Gateway. I don't know how many have been done, or by the time we get through the 100, are we going to have to be back to more millions to go do the ones that we did 20 years ago? I just think you guys really need to start looking at the amount of money that we're dumping into these lakes and other options, because it just seems like it's getting really, I mean, from the time I've been paying attention, it just seems like it's a lot of money forever. The last thing is if somebody could bring up agenda item 5C, page 64, line 66, reference to the minutes from previous meeting. My name's not correct in the minutes. It says Matt Hood, so if they can just correct it to Matt Chitwood.
Oh.
And
Num de plume for that day.
that's I'm sure there's lots of mistakes that I didn't see as well, but and the characterization of the petition I would like to be a little more accurate instead of what it says, maybe something to the effect of describe more accurately as creating CDD policies to not only preserve but restore the oaks, as opposed to the general description that's put in there. So, and that's all I have. Thank you.
All right. Kathy Flaherty on utility rates.
Hi, I'm Kathy Flaherty. I live in Stony Brook, and I'm just questioning the utility rates. They're going up. I'm questioning more the tier rates. They're going from 1 to 15,000, and it was 1 to 25,000. I think that's a big jump. I don't think that should be considered. I think it could go back to the 1 to 25,000, or if you want to do it a little lower, 1 to 20,000. Also, I don't think that because our rates are so low, that's a justification to raise them. So that's all. Thank you.
Rod Senior, miscellaneous.
Well, good afternoon, board and fellow residents. I'm here to throw a little bit of confetti out today for a change. First of all, to Ed. I mean, I sat through this last board meeting 2 weeks ago, and Ed said that he was able to persuade Lee County to put a fountain at this roundabout at Griffin. We don't need a roundabout at Griffin, but we're going to get one. And good for you, Ed. I think it'll make a difference.
If we can make it work.
Yeah, I mean, nobody credited you for it, and I am, because I think it will make an optical difference. And I thank you for reaching out to the county and getting that done. If you can bring that off, I'd rather see that than a statue of Cecil Pendergrass.
It's in the middle of the fountain.
I've heard worse things. Second bit of confetti goes to our supervisor, Bob Geppert, for getting a one-word answer out of our attorney. And I've worked with.
Was it a long word?
Okay. It was no, if I remember right. And I've worked with attorneys for a lot of years, and yes and no is not in your vocabulary, Tony, usually. But good for you, Bob. But the third bit of confetti goes out to the board for hiring Premier District Management. We're in a hole. We haven't got a district manager, and it's going to take quite some time to get one, in my opinion. The good district manager, in the end, is probably currently employed, and we're going to have to drag him out from wherever in the nation he currently is, and that's going to take months. And I'm glad that you've seen some wisdom here and sought the resources of Premier District Management. Sorry Gary isn't here today, but wish him the best of luck with what you're facing. They can offer continuity from what I saw of their presentation. Scott here, we know each other very well from days of old, Royal Palms and stuff like that. Well, Scott, you can hit the ground running, I'm sure, without any training. You know what's going on here, and that's great. I think we could use Premier District Management, Doug, if you want to, for the hiring process. If I remember a couple of meetings ago, I think you mentioned a headhunter could cost us, what, 30K? I think you should ask Premier District Management what they would charge to go and get a district manager. I think you'll probably find it's a fraction of that. And I would ask that you keep that in mind and ask them for a price. They have the connections in the special districts. The other thing Premier District Management has is some experience, long experience with lake maintenance. You know, I think we're talking history now when we're talking about aquagenics, from what I understand this week. Solitude is the big guy, and I've read a lot of reviews, heard from a lot of people that they're not great. They might be big, but they're not great. So I hope you'll keep some ideas open. I've suggested to Ed, and I think Ed's taking up with the county to see who they use for their lake maintenance. Let's get hold of their procurement people, and let's see if we can get one or two good names on board rather than just going to the big guy. The other thing is, and I'm supporting Matt Chipwood's point. You know, the 800-pound gorilla in the room here for some time has been the dollars that we're spending on lake bank restoration. Now, when I was on the board, Scott, in 16, the number when we first went to SRF was $4 million. And I don't know what the number is now, but it's a lot bigger than 4 million. Probably 10. I don't know the number, Ed. It is a big worry for me. A lot of people don't really know that the CDD fees are inside their non-ad valorem property taxes. A lot of people in Gateway don't even know what a CDD is, but they just see their property taxes and they're going to see it going up and up. And the primary mover is going to be lake bank restoration. Now, Premier have got a long experience. You and I went to Heritage Farms some years ago, Ed, and we saw what they were using for their lake bank stabilization. I think they were using geotube, coconut matting, you know all the options. When we looked at it, Armor Max was $90 a foot then, and I think I heard at the last meeting it's double that, or $150 a foot or something like that. So I would imagine a combination of number 4 stone and Armor Max is I don't know, $200, $250 a foot. It's huge. So, you know, we were worried at the time, Ed. We talked about lakes 106, 7 and 8 and 104. They were a big problem, and we went to the stone, and we had Brad and all his people put this hard surface in. We were worried at that time what it would look like in 2 or 3 years' time because we had no experience. We do get weeds in the hardened surface. If you can get a one-word answer from Tony here, I've never got it with respect to the issue of liability. All of my 20 foot in my backyard that was lawn is all LME. So according to the rules, you could put hard surface on the entire 20 foot and I couldn't do much about it. Unfortunately, I've only lost 3 feet to hardened surface, but nobody has ever answered my question as whose liability is it if somebody hurts themselves on that stove. And I haven't had an answer from Lee County nor from our attorney on that. I'll just throw that out there. It has got that issue hanging over it. It does, in my opinion, change the original design of a pond. I know the district has taken the position that it's maintenance. And I know that's a result of a meeting long ago that Scott and others had with Jessica Saltz's predecessor. From South Florida violation standpoint, I understand, I know what you're doing. You're trying to state a code and I get it. And SRF, I guess you have to show them that the methodology that we're using satisfies them. But there's got to be some room for pragmatism. There's got to be some common sense. It doesn't have to be surely perfect on every pond to spend all this kind of money. There has to be some pragmatism. Does it really have to be this debate about whether it's littorals or whether it's hardened surface? That seems to be what's going on here. Littorals, that's a big question. Do they support pond banks? I get it that they filter nutrients, etc. I understand that. Do they really reinforce pond banks? Is there something in between littorals and hard surface? I bought my house looking at the 18th fairway of Gateway Golf Course, and I can now see for the first time littorals growing on a shelf, not on the pond bank, but on a shelf in the middle of the lake. And I don't want to see those grow more than what I understand is 3 foot, being your rule here. I really don't, and that means putting a boat in the water, like we talked about 2 weeks ago. Whoever is your contractor, that's how I feel about it, and that's what I want to say today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
Judy Peak on the park.
I agree with Rod. Judy Peak, Eagle Point. My question is about the park. The holidays are coming.
Which park are you talking about?
Yeah.
Which part?
The park.
The fun park.
Yeah, the fun
The little
park.
fun part.
Yes. The holidays are coming. People are going to be coming. Is the gates going to be open and can people park there?
Had the gates been closed over there?
No, but sometimes they were and sometimes they weren't.
Okay.
Recently, they have not been.
Had
at
not
all.
been closed.
No, they've
Okay.
not been closed.
Okay, I think we closed them during COVID just to keep people from congregating at the park, but I think they've been open.
I don't think anybody goes, and my understanding was it costs, they had to pay somebody to go early in the morning.
There should be no reason to open or close those gates.
Okay,
They should be open ongoing at
okay,
this point.
Are you talking about using them for residence overflow in
yes.
overnight or just during the day?
It would probably be overnight. I mean,
You have a
All-
prohibition against parking on the streets at night in the community?
yes,
So-
yes.
I mean, we haven't had an issue. I mean, I think the board has not had a problem with people parking overnight over there.
Not to my
And we'll
knowledge.
follow up, but I don't think there's any reason why we would lock those at any point going forward. Definitely you don't open and close them from dusk to dawn like you do in some of the other areas. So they just should remain open.
Okay,
I don't see why that would be a problem,
all right, okay,
but I'll follow up to make sure.
okay. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
that's it?
Okay.
Oh, that was easy.
All right. The next two are regarding Stony Brook.
Okay.
I'm going to read the first one from Angela Sullivan. She couldn't attend today. I will not be able to attend today's meeting in person because of my work schedule. I always attend the Board of Supervisor meetings online, GoToMeeting, to be informed. Note, attending any of the Gateway CDD Board of Supervisor meetings at 3 p.m. is a problem for most people that work full-time. I've worked as a committee member on the Stony Brook Advisory Committee since 2017. I've seen a lot of experience, knowledge, and dedication from all 7 of our Stony Brook Advisory Committee members. These committee members volunteer many hours working in the best interest of the Stony Brook community. The Stony Brook Advisory Committee recently worked on updating the committee's resolution. I thought that the Board of Supervisors would review the proposed resolution, make suggestions, and return it back to the Stony Brook Advisory Committee for final discussions. Then after more review, discussion, the Stony Brook Advisory Committee would send the resolution back to the Board of Supervisors for the final approval. I don't think any of the 7 committee members were expecting the Board of Supervisors to make a major change to the proposed resolution and approve it. The Board of Supervisors approved with some supervisors changes without considering the Stony Brook Advisory Committee members' input. In the proposed resolution section number 2, it was suggested that no more than 3 HOA board members be on the Stony Brook Advisory Committee. The Board of Supervisors changed the number to 1 HOA board member. I would hope that there may be other solutions and or options that Tony, the Gateway attorney, can possibly offer for consideration for the committee members, such as Stony Brook Advisory Committee meeting notifications, announcements, committee reports at HOA meetings, etc. We have committee members and HOA board members interested in discussing options. The Stony Brook Advisory Committee are aware of the Sunshine Law and they do comply. These committee members bring experience, knowledge, and dedication to the Stony Brook Advisory Committee with no hidden agendas. Note the specific sentence in section number 2 about the maximum of 3 HOA board members was an add-on. It wasn't in the previous resolutions. I had actually requested that specific sentence be removed since it wasn't needed or used in the past. Thank you for your time and consideration, Angela Sullivan. Okay, and the last one is Joe McCulca regarding the committee resolution, Stony Brook Committee.
Joe McCulca, Chairman of the Stony Brook Advisory Committee, resident of Stony Brook. We have a resolution before you. I know it's scheduled to be signed today. And I felt an obligation just to come out and say for the record that I understand Tony's concerns about the Sunshine Law. But although it doesn't specifically say that it's improper to have board members on the committee, I understand what Tony is trying to accomplish is to minimize or eliminate the possibility that improper conversations will occur. I have to say something about that. If you're in attendance at a board meeting, if you're in attendance at one of our committee meetings, that can go on anyway, whether they're on the board or not. you can't tell people they can't come to board meetings and stand up in front of the podium and make comments about what's going on. I'm not sure how being on the board or off the board really makes that much difference when it comes down to what's getting spoken about. And all of our meetings are properly noticed. Both the committee meetings, I know Georgia takes care of that, and our meetings at the HOA. Our board meetings are noticed. Now, one of the things that was suggested to me by Tony previously, and again recently, was that we could possibly conform with our board meetings and do the proper notification to make them also additional committee meetings. Would that be a workaround? Solving some of the sunshine law issues. I can't speak for the board, but I do know that the board is going to probably be discussing their options, because our three more members, one of them is the president, and I'll be honest with you, he doesn't want to step down. And I'm in a difficult position of who to ask to step down out of the three. And these people do bring knowledge and some authority to the committee. Our committee is actually made of myself and Warren and two existing board members. In that group are three that were former presidents and one that's the current president. And there's a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience in dealing with the problems that we do run into that exist there. We're going to lose some of that, and that's a shame. But nevertheless, people can still come. Even if they step down from the committee, there's nothing preventing them from coming to a meeting and being in the audience. It can be it is an open announced committee. And in fact, they could do the same thing. Others can do the same thing down at our board meetings. I'm not sure that solves the problem, but I do want to say something. The board will probably consider and discuss other options. And possibly maybe Tony can list a few things, because he has done to it verbally, and I remember most of them, of what we can possibly do that might help us be able to sustain board members on our committee by making those board meetings be approved approved meetings for all of us. I do want to mention, because this was discussed to great extent at our meeting yesterday. It got a little hot at times too. But I will say that right now you're using Stony Brook for the president's meeting, correct? That's what's going on. That's your meeting room. And I think you're having one, when is it going to be, next week? Monday night. At that meeting, you have, I think at the last one, there were 3 board of members from the supervisors, and you announced it as a board meeting, a workshop, I believe is the terminology that was used. Isn't that not a similar workaround? Because that was actually a meeting for the presidents.
There's no workaround.
Okay, workarounds maybe is the improper word to use.
Correct, because it was noticed and minutes were taken. We need to bring the minutes back to the board for approval, such as the first time they had the president's council.
And I think our board is willing to do that. That's what I'm saying. And it's a similar situation. I think we can do something like that. And it's something that I can't, like, once again, I can't speak for the board right now. They would have to discuss it. But if I had some kind of an indication that that was possible, I think they would consider it. But I'd need some guidelines on that.
I want to make sure I'm online here. This is not an HOA issue. It's a committee that is a function and arm of the CDD.
Correct.
That's what creates the problem. So why can't they keep their 3 and then they meet all the sunshine requirements that are in there to do that, make that happen?
Okay.
They could do that, as I understand it. It's just you got one hell of a lot of hoops to jump through.
But
That's
here, and once again, my suggestions aren't, they're required. Let me back up a bit. If there are more than one HOA board members on the committee, anytime those 2 board members meet as board members,
HOA board members,
they are implicating the sunshine law. They cannot communicate on any issue involving district business.
Hold
So
on. Out of how many? 5?
no, it's all it takes is 2.
No, our attorneys have told us the opposite.
No, I'm talking sunshine law. I'm not talking HOA law.
You talking about CDD sunshine law or
No, I'm talking
HOA
about the
sunshine?
Florida state
We've,
sunshine law.
we have had our attorneys, two of them, advise us that two board members can be on a committee at a meeting and there is nothing wrong. Three, which constitutes quorum, all hell breaks
But
loose.
that's under chapter 720. Those are the guidelines for private associations.
Right.
When you're talking about governmental bodies, you have the Constitution that talks about governmental bodies. You have the sunshine law applies to governmental bodies, does not apply to HOAs until either a private organization has been delegated the authority of the governmental body, or in this instance, you have a committee that is a district committee. Those board members are subject to the sunshine law. If two of them happen to be on the HOA board and they discuss anything touching upon district business at an HOA board meeting, then that HOA board meeting needs to be open to the public, noticed, and minutes taken. And all the records of that HOA related to that become public records. And so what you end up with is a huge intertwine. I don't want, my guidance always is very conservative on the sunshine law because the penalties are civil or criminal. And I do not like my board members or the committee members having to appear on the front page of the news press standing in front of a judge, as happened at the Cape Coral mayor last year. But so that's one issue. Number two is if there is a violation of the sunshine law, the district can be sued. The district would have to defend it at the residents' expense. And any action taken in violation of the sunshine law is void, what they call ab initio, from the beginning. So you have to go right back to the beginning and then do everything right. And so it's not a matter of the HOA law, it's a matter of the Florida sunshine law.
But it's the CD component committee
The
that
government.
causes the problem.
Exactly. That's correct.
So-
We understand that and agree with it.
Okay, and so do I. So the issue is either they take and have the three members and follow all the rules, or they go back to one member.
Correct. And 'cause
Those are the two choices.
right, because what will happen arguably is that in their capacity, I say for sake of discussion, they're wearing their HOA board member hat and they communicate with another HOA board member who is on the committee. That communication is a public record and it's a violation of the sunshine law.
So what you're saying
Okay.
then is that if they would go back to one and two of the members show up at the
Oh,
meeting,
absolutely can talk as much as they want, provide input, make suggestions. Absolutely.
Provided what?
Provide input. They are members of the public. They're allowed to attend like
And
anybody
members
can.
of the committee,
But
of the
can-
community. And the thing is, if we were to do something like that, obviously they would have no voting rights, but they could sit there and offer their opinions.
Oh, that's always available.
Yes.
I can attend your meetings because they're open to the public.
Exactly.
Somebody from Boise, Idaho could say, where's the Stony Brook Advisory Committee meeting? I want to go in there. And they are required to be allowed.
so the only issue of going back to one and having three appear is the two don't get to vote.
Yeah.
And so
That's
the
another
argument
option.
is so which two don't get to vote?
That's my
Drawing
dilemma
straws,
right
Bert.
now.
And how much,
Who steps down? I know.
Drawing straws.
so Joe, and how much voting occurs in the advisory committee? What,
Oh, it depends on the issues that are coming
Everything
up
goes back
at
to
a
the
point in time. I would say 2 or 3 every time we meet, probably, sometimes more, sometimes less. Depends the time of year and what we're looking at. We probably had 3 or 4, I would
but
say.
my point is the advisory
Yeah.
committee
4 or 5 this
is
last
an
meeting.
oversight committee, not a governing body, so to speak, right?
They make recommendations to this board.
Recommendations, but
So what
but
we're
the
voting
voting
on
goes
is
to
the
recommendations,
recommendation,
go back.
exactly.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out. I
And it
mean, could
goes
you not
both
just get a
ways.
consensus? Well,
Well, with those,
Doesn't
it looks like you got the two extremes. Full meal deal, you follow all the rules, or you go with one.
One, and then if
What-
the
What's the,
others
what's
want
the,
make it
to
a
pleasure-
10.
what's the
They can't
pleasure,
vote.
or what's the comments on those two extremes?
This is a little touchier, real quick, and it would be an easy one. I'm just curious about an opinion on this. Is that because the board members may change in a few months, suppose 2 drop down and we decide, because in this resolution you're going to sign, I assume today, it says that we can operate anywhere from 5 to 7 members. Suppose that then we let 5 ride for a while and stick with the 5 until, and change it at a later date when we feel that we're ready to add new members. What's the feeling on that subject?
Well, you would be basically, you're asking us just to look the other way for the
Well,
interim.
no, well, it gives us the latitude according to that document.
I guess for clarification, Joe, you're saying keep the ability to 3 HOA board members?
No, we have 7 right now. If we want to, no, if we go to 1 and the 2 step down,
One
we
board
don't
member-
immediately replace
One
them.
board member on the
Exactly.
Stony Brook Advisory.
Yeah, right now, the drafted resolution says minimum 5, maximum 7. You
They're
can stay-
members, they're members. They're
Now,
members.
one thing you could do.
No, members of the committee, maximum committee.
No, you don't.
States minimum
Yeah.
5.
Correct.
Now, if it was me, what I would do is I would set a structure for which board member should be in attendance. So whether that's, you're gonna say the HOA president is automatically on the board, or it's the vice president as the, that's one way you could align
Well, I
representation.
think you have to pick one or the other. You can't say in the alternate, because then the alternate.
No, I'm
Yeah,
I'm
no,
saying
we're
one-
not gonna
I'm saying
talk
you either say
alternates.
The
No.
president also is a committee member, or I'm saying as an option 2, it would be the vice chair or someone, or a member at large or whatever. But that's the way you could.
Yep, you could have. the
You could
resolution
have
say,
someone
one of the board members
identified.
Shall be an officer of the master HOA.
Right, and
That could be in
that
the
way you always
resolution.
have one board member that you specify, and then the other board members that want to attend, they attend from the public. And
Yeah.
you can have 2, 3, 5, whatever. That's the way you
Right.
can manage it, and you won't have to decide which one of these 3 board members gets to stay, and if someone gets voted, that to me would take the
You're okay with
ambiguity out.
something like
I'm
that?
okay if the resolution says, minimum 5, maximum 7, one of the board members, only one board member may be a member of the Master Association Board, and that person shall be the chairman or vice chairman, or president or vice president of the Master HOA Board.
That way it keeps it clean, and it.
Now, because
And
the other
that's just my
board
opinion.
members that back off,
Mhm.
they're still in the public, they're still having input. They may not have the vote, but they can influence, and the institutional knowledge that they bring and the history is still available to your board.
Agree with that 100%. But the only reason the subject, I want to make sure we didn't have a problem, that effectively drops us down to 5 in the near term. Okay,
Well, still within the parameters.
yes.
I mean, where you might run into some difficulties if you have more, outside of the board members, but let's say you got 10 people that want to be a part of the committee. How do you choose 4? Because there's no voting. It's basically,
No,
Yeah.
no, it's a difficult situation
Yeah.
but
and that'd be a good problem to
it's
have.
something we
right?
gotta work through though, and just making sure that what our intentions are. And it's not something I will force through. This is something that will be decided by the committee.
Sure.
And I want to make sure you guys are on the same page.
Joe,
Mr.
one thing I
Chairman,
have to say is last week or last meeting when we discussed this.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that there was an intent in the Stony Brook Advisory Committee that they were just giving us options and it was going to go back to you guys to make the proposal coming forward. I thought you'd already deliberated that and were coming to us for a up or
Yeah, I
down
think
vote.
that's, we were
Yeah.
operating on that.
I, for one, missed that part of it.
Well, I will say this, at that point in time, we weren't aware until yesterday at the last meeting. I know that Tony decided to make the recommendation to drop it from 3 to 1. I will say that we probably didn't anticipate that 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and that's what brings me back today. How do we-
Mr. Chairman, what I would suggest then is that this consideration be tabled. Let me add the additional language and bring it back so everybody can see it at the next board meeting.
Not a problem.
And give it to the committee, and you have a committee meeting in between, correct?
Well, no, we don't have a committee meeting. Our next committee meeting will be November 1st, but we do have a board meeting.
November 1st?
And I know that's going
Next
to get
year?
talked about. at the
November
board.
1st?
What's that?
November 1st?
November 1st is our next committee meeting.
A year from now?
Keep saying November.
December 1st.
December. Okay.
Gotcha.
So what would the board like to
I'm
see?
getting old.
Would the board like to see this come back after Stony Brook Advisory Committee looks at it?
However they want to do it. Doesn't make
Okay,
a difference to me.
all right, that's fine.
So I'll make
I
a change.
just want to make sure they're happy on this,
And Tony,
notwithstanding the fact of sunshine law.
and your rewrite, if it's going to go to them, but they won't talk till December. Never mind.
Yeah.
I was going to say, let the rewrite run by them first before it comes back up.
That's the
He-
intent.
he-
I'll give it to Joe. Joe can have it
And I can distribute it through.
Okay.
at the
through
committee
Georgia.
meeting and then get feedback to the
All right.
board.
That'd be fine. And also any suggestions, just to quantify exactly what the board may need to do, so I can let them know, if you really want to go this path, this is what has to be done.
You and I'll talk about it next week. How's that?
That'd be great.
Question,
I appreciate it.
not
Thank
to
you,
throw
guys.
gas on a burning fire.
Trying not to put it out.
What do you need the committee to even to begin with? Why isn't the board just being the liaison with us and be done with it?
Because we do communicate with the wants of the community and the board and our board of, directors.
Well, no, I'm saying if if you've got a 5-member board like we have in Gateway,
Mhm.
right? That board would be the one that would report. That wouldn't be
Well, then
another
you run
group.
into sunshine laws.
No.
Problem.
No,
Well, I get-
your meetings would be open and all that. You'd
Well,
have to advertise and everything. You just do that business that the committee does in a singular meeting.
But in that respect, I guess, if I'm not, and I don't mean to
No, go ahead.
to pretend that I know all that, Stony Brook wants, but I think the community as a whole is very active and involved, and they
Mhm.
want to have input on the
It
budget.
just gets
not-
more people is all. it
Well,
does.
not just to look at the budget, but help prepare the budget.
Yeah.
And typically, you don't have private organizations preparing the budget. It's usually staff does, and it just,
Well, like us, we have a finance committee.
Well, but the HOA board does the budget for Stony Brook. And historically, because remember, there wasn't always an 004 account. That happened as a result of financial situations, hardships and whatnot. There's a whole history there. But the reality is, though, that we do the budget now. The committee does do the budget and presents it to you. And in fact, the board has little input in that. And this is an opportunity, if we have board members there, to have a say. Now,
And that's
granted,
how
they can
Pelican
do
does it.
that, yeah.
I consider it an oversight committee.
Yeah.
It's really what it
Pelican does
is.
the same
It's
thing.
provide
Yeah.
some checks and balances with the board and the residents.
so what I would do, I'll make the change we discussed, send it to Joe. Joe and I will chat.
Sounds fine.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Joe.
I just don't want anybody on the front page of the paper, except for getting a lottery check, okay?
Is that it?
So,
That is it.
Okay,
remember,
great.
Mr. Chairman, we'll get to that item, would the board consider then tabling that until we come back? Or you want to take
Yes.
that action now? It's item-
Yeah, we'll take the action now that we're,
What's
It's
it
in
with-
front of us. Yep.
I don't know if it's technically on the agenda, but if we just table that,
Yeah, I don't think it's
It's
on the
not on
agenda.
it's not here. because I
no,
think
it's not. So we'll
Table
bring
that
it, we'll
until
bring
we-
it back when it's appropriate.
From the committee. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to staff reports. Tony, well, since you're
Already
first,
been gabbing,
stay
yes.
with you.
The interim district management services agreement, I think we have it all squared away between Premier District Manager, Management Services and the district. I think it just requires Cal's signature. We just clarified some insurance provisions and I'm comfortable with it. It appears that Cal is also. And we already were provided the certificates of insurance. I just need to get, I think if I recall correctly, that was satisfactory also. So I think we're pretty much ready to go. And the effective date is October 25th. Cal staff and Premier was here as of that date. So when I was chatting with Cal about it, made sure it was effective the 25th. So I start getting paid that date, even though the contract had not been in effect. On the Pelican Preserve DRI amendment and the emergency access road had I thought a productive, it started off kind of tense, but ended up being a productive remote video session with the city staff as to what the city staff is looking at. And also provide the city staff an opportunity to explain why they've made the comments they made. And some of it's rooted in historical matters that I won't go into now, which I think, again, we're on a better path than we were before. So it's just a matter now of I think Paula, the McMichael planner, was going to coordinate with the city staff, make sure they had and were able to see everything that had been uploaded to date. And if they need additional information. And I believe the planning board, they're scheduling the planning board for December 1st or 2nd for the consideration of the request, the city planning board. And the staff will provide a staff report prior to that time. There might be conditions in it. We chatted, the city staff chatted about what conditions they may put in there. And so we have sort of a heads up. And city staff said, when we put the conditions in there, you can then address the conditions in supplemental filings after the staff report and before the planning board and at the planning board, how you will address it. They wanted some greater specificity about the access control gates, the assurances that it wouldn't be a public thoroughfare. And again, go back through and reiterate, the community's on board, district's on board, WCI, Lennar is on board. So again, it started off pretty tense, I'll call it, but it got to a better place at the end. So that's on track. And as far as, and on Palazzo,
On track.
Yes.
You realize we started doing this and thought we were going to do it last December. It's a year later.
everything needs at least a 1-year anniversary.
put it on record, I warned everybody, that's exactly what was.
Yeah, I,
You can't do this kind of stuff and have one-on-ones with half or a third of the people. You've got to have everybody in one room.
or in one
that's
Zoom.
in- and- or-
Take it back to
But
one
the
Zoom.
most amazing part is this
one
is something that
cemetery or
all the
whatever.
parties want to do.
There's too
And we
many
still
people.
have all these options.
Yeah, there's too
when
many
we're in
irons in the
agreement.
fire on this deal here that,
Yeah, for some reason, I'm not sure. I won't go into.
We operate as efficiently as our US Congress.
Yeah, well, I'm not, again,
oh
I'm
God,
not,
don't say that.
for some reason, I'm not sure why the message had really absorbed that everybody was on board in the community. But that message came across loud and clear, reiterated over and over again during that meeting.
Okay.
So that was one of the interesting aspects of that meeting. I don't know if anybody else was sort of briefed on what happened on Palazzo. I think Steve Adamczyk, the attorney for Palazzo, is getting the title work prepared. You know, the survey was fine. And so we're moving right along there, and we just need to also make sure we're going to try for less than a year on this one. I think Joe Schofield will make sure it happens in less than a year. I think that's, I think Joe is run out of his anniversary candles, so he doesn't want to put one on that file. No, sir, that's the thought process, right? What's up?
Up to the mic.
She's the planner that was hired
Sure,
to
for Homontes.
Holmontes. She's a planner with Holmontes. Oh, yeah, for the district and for the association, yes, to process this. And so Rick Bylansky, Paul and I sort of, and Steve Adamczyk sort of chatted with the staff a bit during that meeting. And again, it was interesting. And nothing else unless you have some
Yeah,
other
I've got-
comments or
Go ahead.
questions.
How do you want to handle some of these things that have just come up in the last, I was expecting Laura here, but how do you want to handle some of these things that have just come up relative to Big One's KO?
Do you want to put that on, and who's from the staff will handle it?
Do you want to do it later? I don't
Uh,
care. I just figured it's,
What we may
you're
want to
on-
add is under,
because that wasn't on the agenda, but it's got to be addressed.
the item is, if we can add it as an action item, I'd like to add it as a specific item so we can make it 4G like in George, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
And the discussion item would be consideration of, I'll call it a maintenance agreement between Gateway 2012 LLC and the Services District with regards to a portion of Tract F, which is a wetlands conservation area on the eastern portion of what they call Cayo Palone or Gateway 2012 LLC, which is that large vacant parcel at the northeast corner
it's a small
of
trapezoidal
Griffin and
area.
Gateway Boulevard.
And I don't know that everybody understands why we're doing
Right.
this.
Yeah.
We'll discuss it
If we can
then.
add that.
Then-
Mr. Chairman.
Then the other one, and I don't know to what extent this will get legal, but let's talk about it so you know about it right now. We have a road bore out there on Gateway Boulevard, and let's put it this way, it didn't go good.
Yeah, maybe just add, Kenny can do that under his report when you get to that part.
Yeah, I don't know that we're going to need a legal, but my guess is it's going to be to what extent they're willing to take and basically swallow and redo the bore.
It's our contract.
Okay, let's
with our
cover that for
contract.
under Kenny's
Okay.
update.
Aquagenics,
Oh, one thing,
that's another one on
Yeah,
legal that I want to make sure that we're covered on.
don't want that under, I could make it at 4H also. I'm
Okay.
just thinking, so we have a specific item, aquagenic status. And George,
Well-
do you have the documents on that?
I do not.
Okay, well, I can introduce the topic at least. Okay. And discuss.
I
That's
think-
all the legal type
Yeah,
items
I
I've
think
got.
Elle was going to cover the
Oh.
aquagenics and.
Well,
for-
I want to make
Okay.
sure that there's, this could really quickly get legal.
So-
Want
so
to make
this-
sure where we're going on that.
So we have 4G is discussion about Cayo Palone Gateway 2012 LLC and a maintenance agreement. And Mr. Chairman, 4H aquagenic status. And I would suggest that the board can agree to amend the agenda to add those two items.
And that 4B will get into a discussion of some of the legal ramifications on that aquagenics there also.
Okay.
Okay,
So I am-
take them up when they happen.
Anything else for the council? Okay, Stephen, to you for Tetra Tech engineering update?
Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Stephen Agapi, Tetra Tech District Engineer. At the last board meeting, we were directed to bring back a cost estimate for including like the road frontage on the lakes in the lake bank restoration project. So I went through and we looked at all the surveyed lakes and the areas that are abutting the roadways or common areas. The length of all those areas is approximately 2,500 feet. And to restore all of those areas, it would be an additional $390,000 for that 2,500 extra feet.
Stephen, is that 390 at using Armamax or using filter fabric?
That's just the filter fabric, which is $128 a linear foot.
Okay, and just to make sure that everybody's on the same page, because there was some references to numbers earlier. You're using how much per foot for filter fabric and stone? 128?
128 for filter fabric and stone, which that does not include like general requirements and irrigation restoration. It's 128 per linear foot with filter fabric and stone, and 154 for Armamax and stone.
Okay, because earlier there was a presentation made that 250 was the number for Armamax. So that number's nowhere near what it really is.
Right, yeah, that number does include, our number includes stone and the Armamax, and, grading, compaction, it's all included.
So the estimate you had last time, as I recall, was 2.4 million. Is that what it was? 2.4 or 3.4 million?
It was 3.66 million, and
Okay.
with the addition, it's just over 4 million.
So with the 390 added up to over 4 million, how much can that 4 million be reduced if we go back and would take out of each of those 9 ponds selected areas and reduce it from Armamax to filter fabric?
Well,
Like do everything to filter fabric, or?
Before you even answer that, did you come up with a cost for coconut mesh?
So the coconut mesh is, from what I've gathered from 2 different contractors, is about $90 per linear foot installed.
Okay,
So
what in these non-residential areas, instead of spending $128 for filter fabric and stone, forget all that. Grade it, skive it down so you don't have the escarpment, and then put in coconut.
And then
so for that, it would be.
Don't need stone here. This is not a,
So somebody go out there and on that coconut, they're going to slide on their butt right in the lake.
Okay.
That's
they could do that walking across the street. Stone doesn't.
So the coconut matting option was about $230,000.
You're getting all wrapped up in safety.
What?
You're getting all wrapped up in possible safety. They could get hit by lightning too. We're talking about an area that is not going to be used, that has, in my opinion, I wouldn't even touch the escarpment, but okay, we're going to wrap ourselves in safety. So put a grader in there, level it down, and then to make it look good, you throw in the coconut mesh and you wet it. That's all you need to do. It will grow back, but nobody's going to be falling. And then you're down at least to a more reasonable, and this isn't reasonable, this is still outrageous, but coconut mesh is a heck of a lot cheaper.
So you're going to I want to make sure I understand this. You want to put in coconut mesh at 4-to-1 or 6-to-1 slope, whatever the requirement is. Well, first of all, you're going to compact it, recompact it with to slope. Then you're going to put in coconut mat, and then you're not going to put anything on it.
Nope, that's what you put the coconut mesh for. It stabilizes it.
I can tell you from an engineering perspective, that is dangerous as hell.
Well, I don't consider it to be dangerous, but anyway, we've done it. We have a lot of experience.
Stephen, will SRF pay for that or accept that?
They probably would if someone were to sign off on it. I mean, we're not going to, provide them plans that are signed and sealed that show that particularly, but I mean, you guys could go a different route and, go with different funding options. But I mean, we have to certify that it's going to hold up and it's worth them giving you guys a cheap loan. So no, we
really quick. And the reason why SRF may not fund it is because it's not in the original design.
No, you could get a change order for it, but I mean, when we submit to SRF like these plans, we're certifying that it's a good use of money. Like it's going to hold up, it's going to last, and you're not throwing money away. Like if you want to do a trial, I would not recommend using the SRF money. I would do a small scale, try to get private money or get it out of your budget.
Excuse me, Stephen, we have data because this was done at Pelican. And some of these projects are 4 and 5 years old.
Yeah, but Bob, what engineer certified them?
And
So you have to
Tetra
have-
Tech bought
you
the
have to have an
plans.
engineer certified for
Tetra
SRF.
Tetra Tech made our plans. It came through here. None of it was done on somebody's pickup truck.
So Stephen, just so we can kind of clear this, is if we just went with coconut mesh, is that a design that Tetra Tech would deem viable?
For
No,
certain,
not the way that it's being presented. I mean, you can put sod on top of it. The sod's going to go through above the water line, but below the water line, the coconut mesh is going to disintegrate, and there's not going to be anything there. I mean, it's
But-
biodegradable.
create a safety hazard, does it? And yeah, the sod would go up above at the high water mark.
I thought we did coconut mesh.
We've done that in a number of
Hampton
ponds.
Park did coconut mesh. Nobody in Gateway has done coconut mesh.
I thought we did a pilot in the pond. Was it? I thought
Well,
like
we did
7 years ago, I thought
we did the pilot with coconut mesh, as I recall, on 106, 107, 108, and then did the littorals, and it was a disaster.
Yep.
But that's my problem, Bob, is that I don't know of any engineer that will certify that. He's not gonna take the risk.
So,
Well, I'm
Joe,
just
you-
telling you, it's been
just
done in
go
other
here really
communities.
quick.
I will say this, I got the estimate from 2 contractors that have done length bake restoration in Gateway, and both of them said they have installed that for other clients in the area, but they don't recommend it because it never lasts long term, and they're always out there, doing repairs on it. Like, you get what you pay for in this instance, I think.
We got Joe that wants to make a comment.
Real quick, I agree with Ed on one issue, and I understand what Bob is saying about he doesn't understand the slipping, but Bob, you're an over 55 community. We have 1,000 kids that are school age and younger, and they do hang around these lakes, and we do have a potential. They do fish off the lake banks. And if some of them slip down that bank into it, they probably can't get out. I'm serious. Some of them are that steep. It's a problem. So I don't know how slippery that coconut is, but it's a problem for us right now with
Okay.
the kids getting close to the edge of those things. And
We're talking about eliminating the escarpment. So there's nothing to slip down unless you slip on the coconut like you're slipping on grass.
well,
And if you do, you stand back up.
generally speaking, grass doesn't grow over there because it's underwater part of the year. But nevertheless, I do understand what Ed, and it's hard to compare your community to some of the other communities
Well,
like Stony Brook.
Yeah, okay, I respect that. It's not a community issue. It
Mhm.
is simply a cost issue.
I understand.
Before we're done, this board is done, and I'm not going to vote for these things. But before it's done, the 5 million we've already started with is going to be peanuts. When we do all ponds in this community, if we stay on this Cadillac track we're on, 10% raise.
I don't disagree with you, Bob, and I do understand that.
Every offering to reduce cost is rejected by this board. And I'm telling you, we're doing things that are done in other communities.
Bob,
Okay.
we don't say anything about your community and your pond cost being 3 times ours. We don't say anything about that.
Okay, I'm done.
As a board member, I've never said a word about that. If you all want to spend that and operate yours, I don't have a problem with that. But I have a problem with you coming over and telling me how I'm going to do my community.
I don't. I'm not telling you that. I was elected to try and save money specifically on ponds. That's what I campaigned on, to make an approach that would be more cost effective. You're exactly right. If this board raises the taxes 20-fold, it will not affect me personally. But I still can't sit here and what I think is a waste of money and say nothing. I won't do that.
I
I'll
think
throw out my 2 cents and we vote.
the one thing that we have is we have set a precedent with these ponds. And I mean, honestly, the quality of the first pond should equal the quality of the last pond.
That's what these owners are saying.
It's not fair to someone who's last in the process versus someone that's first in the process. Now, we made that decision early on. I do agree we should be looking at value engineering as we go through and looking at cost save, but I don't think we should sacrifice the,
So because we
the precedent that
wasted
set.
money on the early ones, we shouldn't try to fix that.
I don't
I'm not saying
agree that
that.
it's wasted. I will agree with you though. There are areas in these now phase 2 and phase 3 ponds that can certainly go to filter fabric and stone as opposed to Arm and Max. The really bad escarpment and sloped ponds, for the most part, have been taken care of. And the deal of how much we're going to spend, if you recall and go back to look at the records, I sit there and came up with estimates back 5, 6, 7 years ago and indicated that this was about a $20 million project. And that is why we did what we did on the bond validation. We had all kinds of documents to show that. Hopefully we can get that to where we don't have to spend that kind of money. But I think Doug hits the nail on the head. There are those out there that are paying what I would call the full meal deal, and they're not getting any meal.
Yeah.
And they want to know that when they come to the trough and it's their turn,
I
they get an
understand
equal
that
deal.
completely.
I mean, the biggest decision that we're gonna have to make is deviating from the original plan, which was we were not gonna touch anything that was not resident facing. That's the decision we're gonna have to make. Is there a valid reason for us to extend or alter the original design, which was we weren't gonna touch some of those other areas, and we will
Well,
absorb the cost of that.
the problem we've got on that is real simple. The permit we have is lakes and ponds or ponds. It doesn't say ponds on the recreational side, it doesn't say ponds on the golf course side, it doesn't say ponds on this, it says ponds. This board, several boards before made the decision they weren't going to spend the money except on the recreational. South Florida Water
Residential,
Management
right?
District would never
Except on
accept that.
residential.
I'm sorry. Except on residential.
Yeah, you said recreational,
Yeah,
residential.
yes, residential.
Okay, we're
Yes.
together on that.
So,
Yeah.
all right.
But the other comment is that when the $20 million was thrown out, and that sounds like the number I remember too, Ed, it was $100 a square foot.
Yeah.
With Armor Max. Now it's 154.
Well, I mean, it definitely may prolong the time for us to deliver, for sure. We may not be able to afford to get this done in the next 3 to 5 years.
Oh, I'm at the rate we're going. I don't see any way in the world that we're doing that, simply because we don't have the contractors and the time to do it anyway.
Yeah.
You're going to get 3 to 5 ponds, maybe if you're lucky a year. This one, it just happens, the reason this one is a big one is you got 58 on there. 58 is a huge pond. That's triple almost any other pond we've got. We delayed it, we deferred it, and it's now its turn to come up. It needs to be addressed. Keep in mind on 58, almost half that pond, at least 40% of that pond, we aren't touching.
Stephen, when do we need to make a decision on the extension of scope? If we do decide, because we will ultimately need to vote on extension of scope if we're altering the existing design, when would we need to do that by?
You would probably want to do it. You need to do it before you bid the project. So
Steve, why can't we do this? Why can't we go on ahead and approve and then do the 390? Or you want to bid? Do you want to bid it, or you want to do it as a change order?
I wouldn't have it be a change order with the contractors. I mean, we're going to have to do.
So if we're going to add it as a part of the deal.
So you can either add it as an alternate, get pricing, do it or not do it, or we can change the plans right now, go to SRF, get it approved, and then put that out to bid.
How long does that take? Because we've got to get this thing on track. We're going to be getting to the point where these contractors are going to bid on this, are going to want to start at the 1st of January when this lake start dropping.
And
right.
Steve, just one more quick question. So the ponds that we've completed so far, how many of those have areas that that would fall into this potential
Common
change?
area?
Yeah.
I know the first 9, we did the common areas. And the main reason we did is because the common areas is where we did most of the access to the ponds. We tore the hell out of them.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
I think they were all 100%.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just want to make sure that we're not changing our direction, because again, my position is whatever we start with, we should end with for continuity perspective. Again, I don't want to alter that by saying, okay, now we're going to start doing something different midway through, which could impact the first set of ponds. I just want to make sure
Stephen, are you saying that if we want to add the common areas, the 390 estimate, that we either do it now and have to go through the design and have to get the approval of SRF? Does that mean we have to redo the facility plan?
No, you don't have to redo the facility plan. I mean,
That's
a pretty minor change.
That's going to take time to go through all those steps. Why can't we go on ahead and authorize the work as it's currently done, omitting that, and bring that back as a change order and run it through and still going ahead and get the bids?
Yeah, you can do that.
The work.
That's an option.
I mean, what's the downside to that? I don't see any downside.
I mean, you're gonna pick the low bidder, so you're gonna get the low bidder's unit cost for the
Doing-
change order work.
You're gonna get the low bidder's cost for a change order. The only thing I
Yeah.
see on that is that you still have to go back, but you can be going back to SRF to get the change order concurrent with the contractor doing the work, and we don't lose time. That's what's killed us in the past. We start these projects in March and you get 90 days at best.
Well, and again, this doesn't impact budget necessarily.
No.
Because it's SRF. It's a lot project-based. So the
Well,
only impact
the budget next year. when we
next year,
start paying
but,
for it.
right, it'll
Yeah, I think it's a
impact.
year late. Yeah.
Yeah, so there'll be a delay on this. Okay, so we need to be able to bring this back to the next board meeting.
Well, no, it's on the agenda for today to approve the SRF application to go ahead.
Yeah, the only thing we're looking at today is whether we
Is that 4D?
add those common areas with the filter fabric for $390,000. That's
Yeah, my
that's
thing.
the only change from last time to
Yeah.
this time.
I agree. I
And
think
that's
the
D, that's,
5D, I believe.
okay, all right, so we're gonna hit that. All right, we'll,
Yeah, I guess just so that when Marilyn does the minutes, she knows that we're going from the district engineer on the update to board consideration of the action item 5D, Mr. Chairman, is that?
yes,
Yeah.
Thank you.
4D.
4D.
4D,
Yeah, 4D.
sorry. Thank you.
And I'm sorry, I did not take roll at the beginning. I completely missed it. So just want to make sure. So we've got Supervisor Tinkle, Supervisor Banks, Supervisor Geppert in today, and then online we've got Supervisor Guy, and is Flavia on as well?
I don't see her name.
Okay,
Yeah, I'll make a motion. We accept Supervisor Guy.
I'll second.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I apologize for that. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So we are pulling forward 4D. Review and sign SRF loan application.
Yeah.
So I need a motion to approve.
To add that.
Yeah.
So
Joel,
we're
you have to
adding,
make the motion
we're
with the-
adding
with the
F,
update.
G, and doing this on D. I'll make that motion.
I'm sorry. Where are we on the agenda, please?
What we're doing, Bill, is we're taking the issue of 4D at that time, which has to do with
4D.
SRF.
Yeah.
4D
Right.
at that time, not now.
Right. Okay.
Did I have a second?
It was a motion to approve the loan application, correct?
Yes.
Which is 4D.
Which is 4D.
Right. So I know Ed made the motion. Do I have a second? I'll second. Any further discussion?
Well, if I think I heard directionally, there's no consideration to change the methodology for future bonds that we did in the past. Is that pretty accurate? Is that what we said? If what we did in the first 7 ponds, that methodology, which is the Armor Max and the stone and all the goodies, we're not going to consider lower cost alternatives going forward because we want to be consistent through the community. I think that's what that's my impression.
To the extent, Bob, that we can get an engineer to sign off on it to do SRF funding. I don't want to pay for this out of pocket. It's too damned expensive.
Well, we have made some alterations from the previous ponds for some value engineering
Yeah,
and
we're
and
going
using
with the
some different
filter fabric,
materials,
yeah.
filter fabric. So we're which is part of the plans that we have now.
So there is a difference.
There is a difference. Yeah. Yes.
And I guess I don't understand why we wouldn't consider other differences like coconut mesh.
Bob, I'll go along with you. I don't have a problem. If we want to take a pond, I don't want to screw up these because these people have been waiting. But if we want to take a pond that's on our schedule, select one and use it as an experiment to do some of these things and don't use SRF because you're not going to get an engineer to sign on it. And go out and use it. I'm willing to try it, but whatever we do,
Well,
somebody's got to understand that if it fails, they got to pick up the tab.
Well, they're pilots. We ran a number of pilots, but that's what Elle and I did, and Stephen was invited to go around and look at the ones that are in this proposal. And I walked those ponds, 4 or 5 of them, I don't remember exactly. And I made recommendations based on the experience that we had in another community, that we change it and not just go blanket, the full Armamax. But every time that's put forward here, we shoot it down. So I'm just trying to, I don't want to waste my time doing that anymore.
I have no problem if you want to take another pond, but not one of these 9. These people have waited too long.
Okay.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh,
So for clarification, the motion passes 3-1. Supervisor Banks, Tinkle and Guy in favor, and Supervisor Gephardt opposed.
correct.
All right, Stephen, anything else from an engineering perspective?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to district manager reports. We don't have Gary on.
Gonna breeze through this one.
Laura, are you on by chance? Okay. So if
Is that her CO, Georgia?
That,
I don't-
is
I don't
that
have the
L,
name on
Laura?
that. I don't think it is.
Okay. And they're unmuted anyway, Tony.
and what I've asked, I talked with Kyle earlier this week, and I also met with Scott. I'm supposed to meet with Gary today, but what they're going to do is they're going to provide us with a summary, a weekly summary, to make sure they're aligned to priorities and just give us high level of what what their focus was for the week. What we need to continue to work on is make sure that we are communicating what our priorities are, and to keep them focused. So again, we're less than 2 weeks in. Right now, they're just getting acclimated. I know Scott's jumped in and is probably managing 5 to 7 different projects that are coming through. So we'll just keep an eye on that, because I want to make sure that we're aligning everyone to their expertise, and we're driving value, and they're, so again,
Well, one of the things
getting
they
there.
come in, and right off the bat, we have 3 Hail Marys thrown at us. Aquagenics gives us they're here at the last meeting and we're having a good discussion, and 3 days later, they're out of business. Then we have the problem out there on Gateway Boulevard, and then we have the problem on Daniels Reserve. If they say it comes in 3s, well, then hopefully we're done.
Yeah. So let's just hope it doesn't come in pairs.
Pairs of 3s, yeah.
So anyway, they're so they're getting acclimated. They're working with staff, and I do encourage the board to sit down and have discussions with Scott and with Gary, but at the same time, the direction that we're giving them will based on the collective or consensus of the board as a whole. So I will move on. If there's any question for district manager, you can follow up directly with Gary or with Laura. Assistant district manager report, looking through. I don't see anything that I have questions with. So we will move on to utility billing. So Leslie, thank you.
Utility billing manager, Leslie Rtorvik. I just have 2 quick updates. I know the update says the next meeting I'd be proposing an action plan and move forward with the software, but we're going to push that to mid-December. In reviewing the software, I had discussion with Laura about maybe entertaining an enterprise system where we would also incorporate the financial side. So we're looking at different software options that would still keep us in our budget, but would also include financials like budgeting, POs, instead of having that as a separate system as well.
Yeah, and I like the approach. I mean, from an enterprise perspective, because it centralizes and streamlines your platform. However, just make sure that we're not making concessions when we go to an enterprise approach, where we're getting, maybe a higher version of one, and we're having to sacrifice another, which I'm sure you're looking at that. But it's definitely better for continuity's sake. It's the right approach.
Okay, thank you. And then the rate schedule notice I drafted up, I also attached. I do have some edits on that.
the irrigation on page 2. I could also include some items pertaining to what capital improvement projects we have, so I can also add that on to the notice, but that's a draft copy of what's going to be going out with the November 15th bill.
Is this specifically, so will you back it, George, let me see the very beginning. Now, I know this is specifically around water. This is the first time we've done this, right?
No,
No?
yeah, there's I'll call it a funky place in the Florida statutes
No,
that says you have to send out the utility bill.
what I meant was not just for this, but I love the format.
Mhm.
If we could
I
adopt this
think this
format for
is-
much larger gateway news, more like a newsletter.
Okay.
Because we have this. My question was, have we leveraged this format for anything, you know?
I've sent out 2 other publications in this kind of format.
Utilities focused? Or-
Yes.
Okay, so if you wouldn't mind, if you can work with Laura and staff and see, and how often this goes out annually?
I try to send it out 2, maybe 3 times a year.
Okay. I'd love to look and see if we can adapt this format just for much larger news, you know?
Okay.
Maybe do it quarterly.
Maybe do it quarterly. You know, maybe let's look at what it would cost monthly and quarterly and what's the level of effort. Do we have enough content to send something out?
Right.
Monthly or quarterly? But I really like it. I mean, it's pretty clean. Looks good.
Okay. So other than those, some edits I have to do, and I'll list some of the CIP projects on there.
Okay.
That's pretty much what I intend to send out with the bill. I've already communicated 3 times prior to this notice to HOAs, master metered communities. So once the bill goes out, I'll go ahead and send out another notice, because the irrigation seems to be it's going to be a hot topic. So.
And then, is anything, questions for Leslie? And I'm kind of holding you because I know you're focused on the aquagenic stuff, so I'm just waiting for that line item. Okay. Didn't want you to think I jumped over you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is this, we're moving forward with this? What is it going to take to make it final?
You don't need any approval from us. It's just in
No,
draft
that's
mode
just
'cause
an
it's not-
FYI of the notice that's going to be sent out with the bill regarding the proposed rates that's going to be discussed during the December 2nd public hearing.
Okay, so that's the public comment
Yeah,
back in.
will our professional be here to answer? Some of these people just do not understand, I guess, that we buy water and we buy wastewater service from the county. And when they say jump, we say how high going up. We have no control. We can't sit there and have no increase in rates. That's what this board did for 10 years and got us in this mess. So we need somebody there that's from more than 50 miles away, that's the expert, to come in and say, you people don't have any choice. You have to do this.
Yeah, I know the main presenter plans to be here remotely, available through virtual. Tony is the lead
Tony
for
Hirsch.
the,
Our professional.
From
right,
Fellows.
the rate
Okay,
consultant.
So
Fellows.
he'll be available, not necessarily in the
Not
building.
in person, but he will be available.
Yeah,
Leslie, will Robin be available also? Because both of them, they make a good team.
Yeah,
If you could ask-
I'll ask.
But to
Thanks.
Kathy's comment early on, you know, about the rates keep going up and up and up, and that we're not at the highest, but we should try for the lowest. I just want to make sure that we have a chance for the dialogue to happen before it just occurs.
Yeah.
Agree. Thanks, Leslie. And Kenny, do you want to just step up and talk about the road bore?
Good afternoon, Kenny Hall, Utility Director. We actually 2 road bores. We did the first one at Griffin Drive, went right through. Second one at going across Gateway Boulevard. Started at 10 feet. When we got to the other side, we were at 15 feet. And that's the top of the casing. That represents a very big problem for us, for the sewer system. Where the 16-inch main is going to come across, it's going to be at 15 feet. And that is a huge problem for us. Should we encounter any kind of difficulties or problems, it would probably, I'd say this is I'm kind of shooting in the dark, but 2 to 3 days before we could even get to it because of that depth.
And that's by design, right? That's,
You know, it
It's
was,
supposed to be level,
you want to,
essentially level.
so when they bored, they didn't bore it level.
Well, they tried.
yeah,
It didn't work.
it came out on the other side at 15 feet.
Oh, we were expecting it to be a 10.
Yes,
Now I got it.
So it's
required
level,
to-
it's
required
level,
To be
just-
at 10.
it's level the wrong way. Kind of like
So
this.
What I don't understand is when
Okay.
you go out there and look at the casing pipe from the side they started on. Typically, if you put a level, 6-foot level on it, you get 0 bubble. Okay?
Okay.
I looked at the back from where the backhoe was at and looked down it like you're looking down a rifle barrel. Only it's a 30-inch rifle barrel. And it looked like it was a sub heading
Yeah,
down.
it popped out at 15 feet, which is a huge problem for us. Should we encounter any kind of issues on that line?
What's frustrating to me
Don't you
is,
just rebore?
I'm sorry.
Don't you just,
Much easier said than done.
Yeah,
Okay.
they've got, that's it, what I believe they're gonna have to do. But here's what's bothering me, is that we had a specification, as I understand, and Stephen, jump in if you want. I was of the understanding that these were all gonna be bore and jacks, which is the standard procedure where you can control where the head's at.
Mhm.
They did it by a method like Comcast was putting in 6-inch pipe in your community. It's a hammer. Only instead of hammering a bullet and then pushing the pipe through it, they put a steel plate on the end of the pipe, welded 2 20-foot sections, put that in a trench and hit it with an air hammer. So as the open-end pipe went through the ground, it was bringing all that dirt inside the pipe. Then when they get down so far, they flush it out with the,
and then start again?
and then do it again. Then flush it out, then do it again, flush it out, and do it again. They're over there right now trying to clean it out, and it is a challenge because you've got some compacted, you just imagine pushing a straw
Yeah.
across your front yard.
So in
What's it gonna
addition
be
to
like
those
in there?
challenges, we're going downhill instead of,
Yeah,
We're going uphill.
we're going downhill.
We're going uphill. The pipe goes down, but
Yeah,
the
yeah.
force main is going the other way.
Yeah,
so
the
we'll
force
be
main,
okay.
the
going up.
problem is that if the, unlike a water line where it's under pressure all the time and running,
Force main is
force
not.
main's gonna shut off at night, and that sewage is gonna come back down to that low spot and gather, and that is nothing but an opportunity for trouble.
So at what point do you not do a level rating and realize that you're,
How do you do a
20
how do you do a level reading when you're 10 feet underground? You can't see it. They should have had a device, which even Comcast had that,
Yeah,
that
hot
they
wire,
follow, that
they always knew where they were.
yeah, they knew where they were at, and they knew roughly
the
what their depth was.
yes.
And
Above
when I
ground,
asked
we
the
knew.
guy out there, his deal was, I don't know where it was at. And I like, well,
Okay,
you
so
practiced,
where do
and
we-
now you get to do it for real.
All right, where do we
Well,
go from here?
we met with Fred, the engineer for Tetra Tech, and we're going over some options and what exactly it is we're gonna do.
Is our position that that's just not acceptable right now?
We're looking at alternatives right now. It
It's
represents
another
a serious,
problem
it's
involved.
a
The
serious
County's
challenge.
involved. This is under their road, and it's not what they approved.
Yes,
So
and say,
it's not
the
simple.
the bulk of our sewer force main and the sewage that it delivers will be going through that line. So should something happen at that point, at 15 feet, it's gonna be days before we can get to it.
And again, out of my subject matter expertise, but, and it's not, you just can't course correct and fill it, right? I mean, it's not that simple, right?
Kenny, we notified them in writing of the.
No, we met out today. We're going over, Fred's going over some alternatives and we're gonna, go back over it tomorrow afternoon.
Give you an order of
what
magnitude of
we-
this hole. You could put 6 Volkswagens in that hole. Easy,
It's a big hole.
easy 6 Volkswagens.
And our standard utility contractors who I call when we're in an emergency or I really need somebody out here it's
They
a
won't
big
be able to
hole.
do it.
It's 15
It's
feet.
Big hole.
I mean,
So
15
you can't-
feet.
You don't just go topside trench it, backfill everything below 10 feet and then go that way?
If that has to be abandoned, it would have to be filled with grout and then redone
Yeah.
or
My
something along
concern
those
is if it
lines.
went in somewhat level and it hit something like I can't picture a root being down that far, but let's say a boulder, limestone boulder, and it deflected. What did that do to those wells? Did those wells break apart inside?
Because of the stress.
Yeah.
That would be my initial. that's what I
I'd be very
initially
concerned.
Yeah, because I'm sure there had to be a reason why it went off.
We are meeting, or we are going to be talking again tomorrow to go over, kind of
This is
go
a
over.
current
what we're-
problem.
Yeah,
It's,
among others.
my thing is right now, somebody's gonna have to come up and really stretch to come up with anything other than, to me,
We
do it
can-
again.
We are looking at some alternatives. We did come up with two that might be viable for us, but. say
And just out of
it's-
curiosity, if you do it again, what do you just move down? Or-
Scoot over about 5 feet and
Okay.
do it again.
All right,
Yeah,
but
then we're gonna,
it's viable.
then,
you
then
could
we,
do that?
then we run over that sanitary sewer line one more time.
Yeah, we have a sanitary sewer that's in the median over there. It's about
17
13, 14
feet.
feet deep.
So you're playing dodgeball with that thing.
And if you hit that line, we're really gonna be in trouble. Capital R.
DPS.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Okay,
Kenny.
thanks, Kenny.
All right.
That's it? You don't ask for money today?
No,
At least not
prep-
yet.
prepping us for the next.
Not
meeting.
yet. We appreciate
He's
that.
prepping
Kenny.
us
Thank
for the
you.
next meeting.
Okay,
Okay, one thing for Kenny, somebody's gonna ask. Kenny, what does the contractor say? They didn't say nothing when I was out there other than like, oh, you know what?
Yeah, well,
They haven't said anything.
we're talking to them now. Fred is on Fred's end and Wyatt's end. They are talking to quality.
But when this event happened, did they call us immediately? Say, that's what's got me bothered.
Yeah. Have we paid him yet?
It's a, no.
Yeah, we got to watch partial payment estimate coming in for this because we can't pay that. No way.
Yeah, but see, we're in the very initial steps of what we're coming up with.
Yeah, good time to screw it up.
okay, thanks. Anything else for Kenny or staff? Okay, we'll move on to action items. 4A, Cruise Soccer League. So this is so Georgia,
Yes.
I know that Laura's not here. So this is the gentleman that came in wanting to do at least the fields on Sunday for an adult league. And the time period now is,
Sorry. Ah, whoa.
25 weeks from 9 to 5, 18 over 18 male soccer league. And we earn $7,700.
Julian is here today with his attorney.
Yeah, he's here. He's done everything we told him to at the last meeting.
Mhm.
so anybody have any comments or?
Well, one question, somebody said they were out there Sunday and they're heavily used. Who's using? Just residents, just scrimmaging? or
Well,
showing
no,
up?
what happens is, I'm sure the reason why he's here is fields are hard to find. And so there's pickup games that happen on those fields. And I can't tell you how many are resident versus non-resident. But I do
Because
know,
it's there, people just show up.
I do know that because they're available and they're not monitored, you're going to get both resident and non-resident use. Now, my position on this is, is we have historically stayed away from adult leagues, specifically because of the amount of wear and tear that the adults have on the fields.
Versus kids.
Versus the kids. Sunday is what I'd call the only official day that the fields are not being leveraged. So it's somewhat a day of rest. And I would have probably gave you my input prior to coming in, because when you the first time when you were here, and it didn't sound like that with the additional costs you were aware of it, and it was something that you were going to do, and you've done some additional due diligence. But I have a hard time agreeing with an adult league just because of the amount of wear and tear. And also on Sundays is typically when the fields get painted for the other leagues, because again, it's the only day, so it's a little disruptive. That's just my input on it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I agree with you totally, unless you assume that they're going to use the field anyway, whether we have a contract with them or not.
Well, technically they're not allowed.
Well, if we're going to do that, we're going to get into, Bill brings up a good point. We're going to get into a police action. They've done it sort of like what's going on down on our border.
Well, but you're not leveraging the fields today, correct? Occasionally?
Your current,
No. Are you using the fields today at any time? No, not today. Okay.
So my thing is that they did what we asked them to do. I don't have a problem with it. It generates revenue, which Sounds like right now we got people using it that shouldn't be there anyway, and they're not paying nothing. And I sure don't want to pay to have somebody and staff to go down there and watch it like policemen.
Mr. Chairman, the only comment I would make, and just noticing this, up until the end of December, I mean, it's 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 each Sunday. But with the change in the time, for example, on November 7th, sunsets at 5:40. It's awfully close, and then when it gets to November 30th, sunset's 5:34, and there's no lights. So I'm thinking that, you know, if we're talking about usage from 9 to 5, maybe until the end of December, make it 9 to 4. Only because there's no lights being utilized as part of this transaction. If the board decides they want to enter into this agreement.
Do you understand?
I
Do you
hear what you're
understand
saying.
the
I'm sorry?
attorney said?
I hear what you're saying, Tony, but if it's dark, they'll stop playing because they can't see.
Right,
No,
but I'm
maybe-
thinking that
maybe.
there's,
Till you get in
I'm
there.
just thinking just overall security of the field, because then the staff has to go lock up and everything else, right? And it's dark out.
They're not gonna have access to the lights.
Right, that's what I'm saying, but if they have the ability to be there until 5 and sunsets at 5:30.
They've chosen
They
not to
should
use
be
the
out of
lights.
there.
They've
Yes,
chosen not to use the
correct,
lights.
correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm
So-
with Ed. I mean, just for a year, we'll give it a shot. If it doesn't work out, then we won't ever do it again.
It's actually less than a year.
Well, but I, you know,
When does it end? April, I think?
It's
Now,
their
here's
last
the one
day,
part of
April
that,
26th.
6 months.
that I don't know if, so our non-gateway fee is annual. So if you start in November, when's the,
It's 6 weeks or 6 months is their term.
25 weeks.
So our gateway fee, $20 per person, is annually. So they would have to pay, if you start the league now, everyone had to pay $20. Starting next year, they'd have to pay $20.
It's actually 30.
For this-
I'm sorry, 30. They had to pay 30. So if you, unless everyone's willing to pay $30 for 2 months and then have to January pay another 30, you either delay it or,
It's actually $30 for the whole.
yeah,
season.
$30, but it's annual.
We
It's
don't
in-
we don't prorate it.
Their 6 month is gonna be the season, just like we do for Gateway Soccer Association.
Not the
and
calendar,
Gateway
it's the
Flag
season. So they're only paying once.
So they're doing it for a season, for 6
That's-
months?
that's
Okay,
what-
never mind. All right.
That's what our proposal gave,
Okay, all right. I wasn't,
the 25 weeks.
okay, never mind. Never mind.
I'd go along with what you said, Doug, as I would make the motion to approve this and for a 1-year deal and see how it goes.
One season.
One season. Yeah, thank you. 1 season and see how it goes.
I don't think that's what Doug proposed, but
No,
That's-
I'm against it.
Well, he was of the deal
Yeah.
that if I was taking the positive part,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
if I did it for,
Yeah, yeah,
1
yeah.
year.
hard to turn down revenue in this environment. Any more discussion? What do we need to do now?
Any more discussion? Okay, and did you,
I'll make a motion.
well, we got a
Do
motion. Do you
accept-
second?
I second.
Okay, second. A motion and a second. I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Me?
Okay.
So 3-1. All right. Just to be clear, Georgia, in that contract, does it stipulate there's no use of the concession stand?
Correct.
And there's no, you guys aren't cooking or providing any food out there, correct? No, okay, just play.
Yes, only wires.
Yeah, okay, all right, all right. Okay,
What we'll do, Mr. Chairman, we'll make sure that language is in the agreement. George and I will coordinate that.
Okay.
So I think it's signature page is such that it could be signed, but we'll make sure, I'll look at it tomorrow. Make sure.
Okay, and he wants to start Sunday.
I know we've already approved it, but we've got other leagues as well that their contracts are in review in December. So if any of the existing leagues were looking to expand to Sunday, well, I guess there's other fields available. There would just be one field that wouldn't be available. Okay, all right, let's keep moving.
Okay,
All right, moving on to 4B. So this is a surface water, wetland, and aerator maintenance contracts. Fun discussion.
Yeah, I got it. Well, We just
Good
got,
afternoon, L. Harris, Stormwater for Gateway Services. Yes, this conversation is going in a whole different direction than the agenda item indicated. That, we have to submit our agenda items several days before, the book comes out. So this went in, and then the following week, we got that information, got the news. So what we're doing in the meantime, Aquagenics is here until December 3rd. They were on site today. They'll be out here on site again tomorrow. We are actively requesting proposals. We're not going to put it out to bid. It's below the bid requirement threshold. We are going to request proposals, and as Ron Senior had indicated, it's not going to be just from the 3 top dogs. I do have one company that has responded very much in line with the numbers we had previously with Aquagenics. I would like to get at least a couple more before, we come back, hopefully at the next meeting, and present that to the board so that you can give us some direction on which way you would like us to go with that.
was that one of the contractors that has previously heretofore bid on our work?
There are people at this particular company that has, yes.
Are they past employees of Aquagenics?
Yeah,
So they jumped from Aquagenics to a new company and are coming in. They didn't submit a bid. Well, let's go backwards. How many firms actually submitted a bid to us for this work?
Originally?
Yeah, originally.
4.
And who are
Okay,
those?
which facet are we talking about? We're talking about
Currently,
Ponds.
ponds.
Yeah, ponds.
Currently, I'm talking about ponds.
just pond maintenance. okay.
Pond-
Even though we just have to make sure that we canceled all contracts as of December 3rd with Aquagenics DBI or DBI Aquagenics.
But
Well,
this-
I guess if I may, Mr. Chairman, also just for
Yes.
clarification, L, when you have the category of stormwater pond maintenance, is that one contract that you're talking about?
Yes.
That is over the statutory threshold, the 195.
Oh,
She's
190.
talking about 1 month.
No.
No, it's a category 4.
I stand
expense
corrected.
For maintenance, so, yeah, contracts for maintenance services, and it's over 195, so that one does
190.
We'll
require,
have to bid it out.
yeah, that one you require for the stormwater pond maintenance does
See, I
require.
thought she was talking about just bidding out the month of December.
Well, no, I did ask for for 1-year maintenance. What I can,
Okay.
we've got
So
December.
let's go backwards and get up to speed, because I'm trying to get an order of magnitude of where we're at here. This is why I call Cecil. We're looking at $332,000 for the total of all these.
For all 3, yes.
All 3.
But they
What were
don't go
the-
out as a single contract, they go out separately.
What were the other bidders' numbers? We didn't get a bid schedule. What were the other bidders and who were they that bid on this project?
It was Solitude, which I think was next in line.
Okay, how much was
they-
their total?
They were, oh my gosh, I am so sorry. I don't remember specific numbers, and I hate.
Well, I mean, was it competitive or were they?
It was competitive.
Okay,
It was
but
several $100s above the one that we received from Aquagenics.
Just 100, couple of
No,
hundred?
I said several hundred, because I don't remember specifically.
And
It
then-
might be $1,000
But
over.
our
it
plan is to
might-
rebid this, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna have to rebid it.
Yeah.
That's
So
all.
you're just
That's
looking at historical
Yeah, I'm
numbers.
trying to find out what, are we going to be in for a sticker shock with
I d-
Aquagenics being gone?
Should not be.
So who were the other 2 bidders you had?
The other 2 were Clark Environmental, they were right around 300,000.
Lower
And
than?
and all
lower
these
than-
people are bid on all 3.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I guess maybe just
Yes.
for clarification for the record, the bids were not recent bids. These were bids. that
No,
were-
these were a year ago.
Okay.
Oh, I thought this was just done because we're getting ready to award the contract
No,
in
this is,
January.
no, this is a renewal.
This was a renewal,
What was
yes.
characterized initially as renewal of the existing contract with Aquagenics that was awarded to Aquagenics a year ago. So I believe that the bids that Al was
Oh.
talking about
They're
were
a
the
year old.
bids that were solicited and submitted a year
So,
ago.
so then we don't have a current idea of what we're going to find on the open market when we go out to bid.
Only what we. had
Only what
contracted
we
for
had
last year.
contracted
So
for.
we don't-
right?
we don't have-
Well, yeah, so
Right.
so in other words, if this was a true renewal of the Aquagenics, we would not have to bid because you could renew it.
Yeah. I wouldn't.
In fairness, this is such a late breaking development. I mean, they declared their bankruptcy last
No,
Friday.
no bankruptcy.
excuse me, that's what I read in
Disillusioned.
their press release.
No,
DBI.
the press release was that one of their lenders no longer
Correct.
decided to provide the credit facility so that they were closing operations, certain of the operations, including this operation. And then we had the letter, an email saying that there has been a letter of intent to sell all the assets involving this aspect to another entity.
That's what I said. They're bankrupt.
So they're not bankrupt.
Okay, now.
No, there's-
They're not in business. Anyway, the vultures are circling. Everybody that's currently in the business knows it. They're contacting Pelican, and now Pelican's in deep contact with Elle. Just give her a week or two to sort this thing out. I think it will sort, because Aquagenics is still functioning.
But my point, Bill or Bob, is that are we now preparing a set of specs to send out for this bidding?
Yes,
And for information too, go backing up.
It'll be identical to what we had before.
Well,
wouldn't it?
Well, that-
pretty much,
But I did
yes.
talk with Elle earlier, and I said, now, if there is an opportunity for us to look at
Other people,
uh,
non-traditional.
well, not just other people, but if there's things that we want to put in this bid package.
Oh, yeah,
you know,
that we covered,
that-
discussed in the past.
Right, if there's
Yeah.
if there's opportunities, if there was some gray area within Aquagenics, things that,
Like
whatever.
access to these ponds is that if
So,
they can't get a boat in there,
Okay.
that's their
Well, that's a
problem.
whole different ball of wax.
Yeah,
All I was
yeah.
talking about right now is the people that will hold themselves out to perform these services to us. If we want to rebid, we go down that road and do it.
Sounds like we don't have any choice. We have to, at least on the
I
bonds.
think also, just for the record for clarification, the issue with Oxygenics that evolved was based upon that correspondence from the parent entity, I'll call it for purposes of discussion. The district management sent out termination notices to Aquagenics pursuant to the contracts, terminating the agreements as of the 30 days after receipt, which is December 3rd, except for one contract with Pelican Reserve that has a 90-day provision in it. And I can't recall if that was a pond maintenance, aerator, or conservation, but there was one kind of outlier contract that may have had a 90-day.
They just were awarded the conservation. They've historically had pond maintenance, but they just got the contract.
But those contracts that
For
had the 30-day cancellation ability for no reason, those notices have gone out.
but Tony, if there's a 30-day termination for convenience, but the work is stopped.
I guess it's still going now, right? They started-
Yeah,
still
they're
doing
back
work.
on site.
They
They,
still
stopped
doing
for a
work.
week and a half, as
we
I
had
understand it.
them hold off coming back on site until we received an updated insurance certificate bearing the name of their new corporation, their new name. They went from D'Angelo Brothers, Inc. to D'Angelo Construction Services.
Well, I want to make
But
sure that we're not giving the impression that we're contracting with this new entity, because again, it didn't say the assets have been sold. It's been a letter of intent to sell all the assets. So the entity we need to deal with is the entity that we contracted with.
Right, so my point is,
That's
one, we
important.
need to, right, that's very clear.
I'm just
Two,
following direction back here.
I just want to make sure we're not obligated to pay for services rendered when those services are not being performed. Or
I concur.
if it's not adequate pursuant to the contract terms, because if they've lost,
In other words, not doing the whole job.
or they don't have the subject matter or the experts to come in and facilitate that, they're just sending some, so I don't want to pay for
The
lack of
dust
quality of
hasn't,
service.
dust hasn't settled. To your point, I think we're
I agree with that.
pretty good. Let's just, we're too early.
I would just
So
hold off.
the big
hold off
thing is just to
paying
make
anything
sure that
till
we're
we-
clean on this, who we're dealing with is the
That's
legal
correct. I
entity.
didn't realize that. But yeah, again,
So even though this is
from our
an
perspective,
agenda
we have
item,
a contract with the DBI or Aquagenics / whatever the entity was from a year ago. That's who the district has a contract with. That's who the notification of terminations went to. This other entity out there, we don't have a contract with.
Okay,
and
what
we're waiting
risk
on
do
proof
we
of
have if we do
insurance.
work with them and they provide insurance to us? As, on an interim basis, not a contract basis, but just
If
covers.
we do it under a contract, there's a theory in Florida law that because we have sovereign immunity, we can say, nice try. There's an equitable principle of law called quantum merit, that if you do work even without a contract, the other person shouldn't benefit from your work and you not have to pay them. But there's a different standard when you're dealing with government bodies. You have to have a written agreement,
I mean, I think our direction here would be, we would terminate for convenience.
which is
We
already
would
happening.
rebid, and if this new company wants to bid, fine. We give them every opportunity to bid. If
But
they
I,
meet all of
and
our
I
standards.
understand, I'm with you all the way. I'm talking about the gap between
What-
today
That's what I'm
and
talking
when we
about.
get there.
Yes.
The gap is where I'm
The 30-day
concerned.
Well,
period.
What
And
I
as
would,
long as Laura is dealing with you to cover us legally and ethically in every way we got to do it. If John Doe shows up and does the work and you buy off on it, we're good until we get a new bid.
I didn't realize the new entity was doing the work. I will get with Laura tomorrow.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, the district has the ability to issue, I'll call it a 30-day PO, I would say, or 28-day PO to the other entity.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
and I
I'm
would say
comfortable with that.
It's
we
very
need to
much a
be-
moving target.
We need to be prepared to do that for the new entity, and or if we feel like this bid package is gonna be longer than 30, 60 days, we may have to create a PO for
Yeah,
any
if you're
interim work.
changing the bid package, then it's absolutely a different ball.
Yeah, because you're not gonna get this bid package, and we suspect it'll be changed to some degree. You ain't gonna get that thing overnight.
Well, and I wasn't expecting any change at all. I thought we were just gonna roll
Well, and there
forward.
may not be.
But that's
I just-
okay.
You know, Elle and I were talking, if there were opportunities, now's the time to look at
Absolutely.
it.
Yes,
So if
absolutely.
anyone on this board or staff has any areas of concern around what Aquagenics had been doing or things that may not have been scoped in the contract, please let Elle know so we can have that.
Yeah, I don't know of any issues with aeration or conservation areas.
No, yeah.
If
The
it's
issue-
anything, it's the water.
The issue is the ponds and the issue is access. They can't come in and say they're gonna maintain something and then come back and say they don't have a way to get there. I mean, that's not good. They're gonna have to come up with a way.
Can I clarify something, please? We didn't say that we didn't have access. What we said was we held off on using that access so that we would prevent causing the damage of driving a truck across saturated ground. We got back out there with the truck and the boat and everything back out there just as soon as possible. They've been out there for 3 days. Last week, they were not out there. They were there the week before and they have been back out there. I saw them out in the boat today. So they are back out there in the boat because now it's dry enough they can drive the truck across the golf course and launch the boat where they've always launched it.
Yeah, but that's not my point, El. My point is that if we've got a requirement that they have to maintain it to 3 foot, and when it's 7 feet, they can't use as a deal, it's muddy. They gotta come up with some other way of doing it.
What they do in our community, when it's muddy, they lay out plywood and drive over. And they
Okay.
get there.
So,
Yeah, that's what my deal is that's not our problem.
Okay, then we need to put that in the specifications. When the golf course is too wet to drive across without a platform to drive upon,
well,
the contractor will be required to supply that platform to get across the golf
the
course.
contract should say that it's the vendor's responsibility to maintain the lakes,
Period.
within the schedule. If there are any,
Don't tell him means and methods.
yeah, I mean,
Okay.
Let him do
there are
Because they
any-
know the wet season,
right,
dry season.
and Tony can work on
Okay.
language like if you know, if
Okay.
we need to specify if inclement weather or something prohibits you, there should be alternate methods and
Yeah,
you know,
because they're using it as an excuse.
right.
So Laura and Gary have the ability, working with Tony, to keep us
Yes.
going for the next 30 days till we come up with the
And
package.
The one thing I want to be clear on that we probably need to call out is we had this conversation with Aquagenics when they were here. When we were talking about how they spray or cut back, and we had a lot of conversation on cutting it back to, to 3 feet or whatever. I want to make sure that's not lost in the new agreement.
It's not, it's spelled out specifically
Okay.
in the detailed
That it
specs.
needs to be.
And the pond standards are spelled out specifically and attached as attachment number 1 to the specifications that
Because if they're
I've been
cutting
working
back,
on today.
I don't want them cutting back to 10 feet. They almost need to cut back 2 more feet because there's going to be growth. Roach, you're going to be back there next week. So just make sure that all that's.
That was all last meeting's
Yeah,
discussion.
Yeah, everything we talked about last.
That George heard.
Yeah.
And we can go back to the recording. if we need
Okay.
more. Okay.
George is just wearing a different hat now.
Yeah.
Yeah. in a
So
different
there's no
place.
action for today. You're going to come back with the bid package.
That's correct. And the same thing goes for the bathymetric surveys. I did reach out to 5 vendors. I got replies back from 2. I actually had a proposal from Aquagenics. However, I don't know that they'll still have the equipment or if there was no PO signed. I just got a proposal.
And
The other vendors, one of them did give us a proposal. They did say, however, that they would not be able to complete any core sampling, that is outside of their scope of services. They would do a bathymetric survey and provide us the maps and the surveys and the readings.
Why would we get involved in that? We should write a spec that if we want core samples, they provide core samples. If they have to sub it, they sub it. We don't get in the middle of that. And as I've been doing my research, and I've only found 2 firms that basically can do what we want, and that's Holmontes and Solitude.
Holmontes replied to me and said they do not do core samples.
That's not what I said. They can sub it.
Right.
It's not that they can't do it.
Well,
They can't
that's
do it, but they
the
can sub
same
it.
thing I got back from Extreme Divers. He called back. He goes, well, I would be subbing this workout. So I,
And that's
because
what-
I'm going to be doing
yeah, I
that, then I
expected
probably
that.
don't want to,
I expected that, but you got Advanced that don't even do the work.
right?
And now Aquagenics is out. So we're really down to a limited, maybe 3 firms that can get us. But the bottom line is that we need to get that bathymetric deal going because we're at control elevation right now, which is the perfect time to be doing it.
Yeah.
Well,
we're-
let me just state this. And how often do we do core sampling?
We don't have it in the spec.
Yes.
So we-
Oh, we
well,
don't.
We
do-
historically don't do it.
We didn't even do core sampling except the one.
So
pond.
what I would say is if we've got, the majority of our vendors don't do core sampling, I understand what you're saying, get them subbed out. I would say pull it out of the contract. And
Well,
if we're
it's-
gonna do it once a year or twice a year, we do it as a separate.
Yeah, I was just curious, Ed, what do-
The core sampling is that we're going to go in and we're going to put in aeration. People down in Naples learned this the hard way. Copper. We don't know that we got copper. Keep in mind, back in the early 90s, we were pouring copper into these lakes.
but
You
that's
can
gonna be
be,
in the
you
sludge,
can be
right?
It's going to
guaranteed
be in
you
the
have
sludge that We're
copper.
going to mix up when we put in aeration.
Well,
That's the problem. And that's
your
what
ponds
happened
are
in
older
Naples.
than ours. Ours were newer.
Yeah.
We have not had that
That's why-
experience.
And
And
my
we
deal,
didn't do core samples
my-
except on one pond.
to answer your question, my deal is to go out and take possibly 2 or 3 core samples, test them per pond, indicate the items we're worried about, nickel, cadmium, those things
Okay.
that are present on a road.
That's a different initiative, and I'm okay with that,
But-
from aeration. per
But
se.
once we find that, if we can find out that those primary ponds don't have a problem, we can almost put that on the back shelf.
Well, I think
It's not even a problem.
My
Okay.
point was those might be 2 different.
They're separate
scopes of work. If the vendors are
Bathymetrics-
saying we don't do
Of
core
course,
sampling and they don't want to
I
sub it out.
understand it, but
I'm with you.
why do we want to take the risk of subbing out? Let them do it.
Well, but to Elle's point, you got one of the vendors that can do bathymetric but saying, I don't want to do core sampling because I've got to sub it out. I don't want to have to deal with it. So,
I don't like snow. Tough luck.
well, but I mean, if we
I mean,
include core
that's-
sampling, we may not get all of
Keeping their
the.
core value.
The last I
Let them
heard-
Do the bathymetric, but somebody else,
The-
whoever
the-
does
the-
it, hire them to do the core sample.
The last I do is that the pen and the writing of the specs was in our hand, not theirs. We tell them what we want. If they don't want to bid, they don't bid.
Right. And then we'll move on. We'll just keep sending out proposals
But
and
the issue is we've got to get this bathymetrics going.
The other one that'll do core samples was Estes. He did something
he's
like
not going to come in and do as many as we want.
No, that's
Now,
what he
he would do one pond. He's done that for us before. One pond, he did that for a specific community
Okay.
that requested it.
So are we saying that we're gonna, we still want to include the core sampling in,
I think
in
we
the
ought to keep
bid?
it separate. That's fair.
You want to do it separate, all you're going to do is just have another bidder in here is all you're doing. And it's so easy to do it while you have the boat here
In the water,
in the water. And you
That-
know
that's when you do
exactly
it.
where you took the sample. So
right.
these guys that are going to come in to do the core sampling, they aren't going to have the GPS system. They go out there that you won't know where in the hell in the
Okay,
lake they're
then
at that
you
they
gotta
took the
say,
sample.
I'll buy into it, say 3 core samples per pond.
That's what we need to do is
Enough.
make a determination of what the number is. I agree.
Okay. Then it's a finite number. They know what they're bidding.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so we're keeping core samplings in. Great. Okay, thank you, Elle. We appreciate it.
Okay. Is that it for me?
All right,
Thank
so
you.
we've got,
Oh, the other one, there is one other thing. We need to have an idea of, this whole thing has changed, not so much with the aquagenics deal, but with what Elle pointed out. Several of these companies that would be interested in doing this work, they don't, the aeration work, they don't do the bathymetrics. So the issue is what is our long-term deal of how we're going to do it? Let's say we had the bathymetrics in hand. Do we go out then and have a specification to give to each of these bidders that would, in other words, manufacturers of equipment of aeration, and say our requirements are certain decibel rating on the boxes, certain CFM on the lines, What else?
Yes, all of the above.
All the above.
It would need engineering and design.
And how many turnovers per day?
Yes,
Correct.
24
At least,
turnovers, yes.
once per day
My-
for the
my-
entire farm.
And the spacing of the
My
area?
problem is who's writing that spec is where I was going.
That we need to talk to our engineering firm.
They don't do it.
Okay,
They
well,
don't do it.
Homont,
So,
Advanced Aquatics does.
well, they're one of the bidders that want to do the work.
Yes.
So they can't do that. That's conflict of interest. So we got to find somebody that's going to write the spec. So we may need to pick some brains, do it internally and then
So
test the market.
Let me just, because I don't understand.
How about Homontez?
Well, you don't want the guy to prepare the spec and then bid on it.
Oh, you mean bidding for the aeration? Okay,
Yeah.
all right. I thought we were talking about.
He might guide you to his aeration cabinet by saying.
I think so.
I thought we were talking about the
Yeah.
bathymetrics.
No, the
not
bathymetrics
okay.
pretty
I
Yeah.
understand.
You know, we can, let me speak with Rick Pylinski, maybe Homontez, because they did do a lot of
is
the
it-
development here in the
Homontez is a
community,
possibility.
and they can do the design, but they don't do the
Well,
installation.
wouldn't anyone,
they don't have
it
any-
doesn't have to be local, does it?
No.
Whole Montez
we
doesn't
could
have any
find
equipment, so they're not in the game for the equipment. They don't have
Right.
a
No.
contact.
Okay. so
But
that-
they
that's
can do
probably-
the design.
That's probably who we go with.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
so we need to circle back on 4G, which is the add-on. That was the track F.
Yeah.
Yes, if I can hand some handouts here, and there's enough to go around the table and to Georgia for the record. And Mr. Guy, I apologize. I don't know if there's any way to get one to him,
Here
Georgia.
you go, Bill. Does this help?
Can you just email it to Mr. Guy?
Can you drop one off to Bill? Hey, Bill, we've got a map here that, a handout. Bob's gonna run it by and drop it off so you can have it.
Oh, swell, thank you.
Yes, sir.
The last page is the issue.
Well, you know, the first page, this is just to give you the first page is just to give you an indication of the property. This is the property at the northeast corner of Griffin and Gateway Boulevard, across north of the 7-Eleven. Cayo Palone, Gateway 2012 LLC is the owner. The second page is a little close-up. That's from the South Florida Water Management District permit application for the Cayo Palone, also known as Gateway Parcel number 11. The third page is, and I had to cross off the north arrow that had the north arrow pointing to the east.
You lost me on the second page.
The cross-hatched area in orange is the
okay.
property. Again, that helps define its location. The third page is a site plan that was filed with regulatory agencies for this application. And you see that little, I'll call it the bump out on the right-hand side? Where you have north-south in it. That little bump out is the area issue. And lastly, you go to the last page. The area that's in bold on the right-hand side called sketch and legal description. That's a sketch and legal description of an area that is part of a conservation easement currently in favor of South Florida Water Management District, required by South Florida Water Management District as part of a permit issued to the Cayo Palone project. And you're all probably going, why in God's little green acres is a district going to be discussing a possible maintenance agreement or of this area that's on the last page? If you recall, a while back, there was the discussion, the manager has provided authorization to have discussions and negotiations with the Cayo Palone developer to get a utility easement running east-west on Griffin and a little bit north-south on Gateway Boulevard as part of the whole utility relocation program dealing with the roundabout. Plus, I think the force main needed to be replaced because of its age.
This one I got from Danny as the latest copy. You can make some of those. This is the drainage map of KOP.
Oh, okay.
that I think everybody needs to see.
And as part of that, the developer did grant the district the utility easement, and the district provided $10,000 in compensation to the developer for that. I thought it was going to be in the form of credits, but I guess he actually received cash or a check. Found that out. My understanding is, and Kenny can correct me if I'm wrong, Kenny, we walked in the wrong moment, that when Quality Enterprises was out there doing the work on the force main on the north side on Griffin, there was, in the field, there was determined there was a conflict.
Yeah.
The record drawings were less than record, I'll say. so that there was a need because of, was it the vertical separation or horizontal separation? Horizontal separation, a need to shift the location of the utility easement to a different location.
Yes.
And that, if you recall, that came up at the last board meeting, I believe. We talked about that, where the district would be granted a new utility easement in a new location. The district would vacate the old utility easement that was previously granted that resulted in the conflicts. So the board approved that, sent it to the developer, and the developer I'm not sure when the developer started saying, yeah, we will give you that easement if you take over maintenance of the area that's on the last page. It's also in gray on the sheet that we just handed out, the one that Mr. Tinkle had. And there's been email going back and forth. Laura said, well, wait a minute, we compensated you already for the easement, and we don't have any desire to take over the maintenance in perpetuity. But in fact, I guess the district has been maintaining that area. It's a wetland area, subject to conservation.
We've been doing it all the time.
Apparently, we've been doing it for years.
Yeah.
So there was a number of emails going back and forth about what the nature of the agreement or interest would be, what the district would do. And apparently I was not involved in any of the discussions. I know Mr. Tinkle was on the email. Laura was talking with the developer. I don't know if Scott or Gary got involved at all. Scott's shaking his head. No, let the record reflect Mr. Connell is vigorously denying any involvement. And so that's at the point now where there is a timing issue with regards to the project, the utility line project being delayed. And Kenny, can you explain what that is for the board?
The underground pipe is missing in that area.
I don't think this is correct.
Did you, Doug?
I'm sorry.
No, Kenny, the current issue is the contractor is coming close to the point where he will be, well,
out of work. That will be,
except for what happened today may delay him some.
we're still there. We're just now starting to deal with
So that there isn't, without a resolution of getting the new easement in place, there's a
They will be out of
potential
work.
for the district contractor to stop work.
Yes.
That's right. We could get dangerously in a bad position.
So the discussion would be, and as I understand it, the area, it's a little bit confusing because the area that's on this sketch is the area encumbered by the conservation easement. I pulled that off the conservation easement that's in the record. This area that's,
Yeah, it's just not,
That
it's not
sheet
encroached
2
in
of 5 is not accurate.
I mean, it looks like,
well, again, that might be an older site plan, but that
That's
came
what it
off
is.
of, again, that came off of one of the permit files in the
so
staff.
they're not
This one I
encroaching.
just sent you is hot from Danny.
Yeah.
But what,
Well, they won't be able to encroach.
they
on the
won't be able to encroach.
Correct. The conservation easement has all kinds of prohibitions and restrictions, typical conservation
that's it
easement.
right here.
Yeah,
So-
well, well, the point, look at that, Tony, because this is interesting. I wasn't aware of it until I just saw it here now. Those buildings, and I guess that one deal looks like a pool complex. Look at that, right at the back of the buildings, they're proposing, looks like, God bless, I wish I could read. Looks like riprap right up to the edge of the building to separate the building from the conservation area.
Yeah, yeah.
Man, that is wild. I've never seen
Is
anybody
that
do
what that
that.
is? That's a pool?
I'm guessing that's a pool. I don't know what else they would be.
Let me see if I can, because this has been, again, scrambling at the last minute, and which is never a fun thing or recommended to do. But let me see if I can.
So I mean,
Yeah,
there
but-
is no separation distance basically at all from the back of their buildings to the tract F, as I look at
Yeah,
this.
I don't
There's
have.
no backyards.
Yeah,
There are no backyards.
I don't have.
Real bold line is riprap. Ed, is
That's, I'm trying to read it, Bill, or Bob. I thought I saw riprap on there.
Yeah, I don't see I don't know if this is a South Florida permit application, Ed, or if this is a concept plan, that one.
This is the
graphic.
latest plan that came from Tetra Tech.
What is that?
Parking garages.
So it's not the area in gray, it's correct, it's here to the left of gray, is what, is the conservation easement. It's marked with a little vegetation, as wetlands. And if the board is designated conservation area, there's also a little area that says preserve area. I guess if the board is inclined to enter into a maintenance agreement I have a standard form of maintenance agreement I've used in the past that requires that the district will not begin its maintenance activities until the developer complies with all the conditions of the South Florida Water Management District permit applicable to this piece.
Well, as you and I had talked, what I gathered after Laura told me about it and said, can you talk to Rick and find out what's going on? Right off the bat, what I gathered is they wanted to do what Gateway Greens did years ago, and that's quitclaim deed this over to us.
The segment.
The segment. Tony brings up a good issue that the quitclaim deed has some problems. So the maintenance agreement would be the better way of going.
Yeah, and Rick Bryansky also mentioned setbacks are measured from lot lines.
Yeah.
So if this little chunk was to be deeded to the district, the buildings have to be
They
further
have to move
back
the
yet.
buildings.
And that's what Rick put in an email today.
So,
Plus, there might be a lot split issue with Lee County and a number of other.
so the maintenance agreement is our best way of doing it.
I would suggest that's easiest, most
I
expeditious.
think so too.
And I would suggest that, and again, I don't have that in front of you because this was all, again, flying around at the last minute, which we never like to, I mean, I don't like to do things.
And we just consider this proposed conservation area to be part of the preserve area. We already got.
Yes.
That's one approach, and then have a authorize the staff to prepare a maintenance agreement where the district would maintain that area. And the question becomes, will the district charge that property owner for maintaining that area?
We don't have anybody else. I don't know why we would.
And the other question is, would the district want a drainage easement over that area too, in addition to the maintenance agreement?
Drainage.
Yeah, because the rationale for the maintenance agreement would be that the water coming from that conservation area into the district's water management system. So the district has an interest in maintaining that in a good condition.
Well, they're on site. One of the plans I gave you was the drainage plan. Their on site goes to the ponds, goes to 92 at 2 locations.
It doesn't go to this conservation.
Does not go to the conservation area. So the only thing that would possibly happen would be if somebody tries to maybe put a, downspout gutter on one of the back of those buildings and take a shortcut and dump the water into the conservation easement, which we would have to say no.
Well,
No water goes into the conservation easement, except what falls from the sky.
okay, so no water from the site will discharge into this conservation area?
All goes forward.
Yeah, it would go into their stormwater system.
Okay,
And to me, then that pretty well covers us.
and so we would just be, the district on this would just be maintaining the exotics and all that other kind of good stuff.
Yeah.
Biannual.
The typical kind of,
It's a biannual inspection.
whatever's required, but, and
Yeah.
basically we'd be picking up their obligation under the South Florida permit for this wetland.
Well, one of the problems that
That's in essence, what
Not very much space.
one of the problems that Elle and Laura made the other day was that the access to that tract F is not what you call good. So, but if you look at that map over there, you can see it. There is a sliver between their property line on the far south side and our pump station that goes back along to the part of the wetland that belongs to Devonshire that we can then go to and get into this section. But if you look at these maps, the one I made, it is tight. There is no place to really access this wetland other than to go through Devonshire's portion of the wetland.
Yeah,
But that shows it's abutting an existing lake.
Yeah, it's a U-shaped lake and it's right in the middle of it.
Because I don't see it on the blow up. On page 2, you can't see the lake.
It comes in at an odd angle.
Where's that picture at?
yeah, and I guess the question for specificity is, again, this
Yeah, it's
area,
very hard to see.
this graphic with the solid line, that depicts the area encumbered by the conservation easement in favor of South Florida Water Management District. That configuration, though, is different than the area. It's a little bit different. You can see the shaded area for the conservation. If you look at this one carefully, you see that sort of box, but then here it's kind of shaded that matches the conservation easement up in this portion here, where it sort of squares off. But then if you look here, you see the
Yeah,
shading.
these two are a little bit oddball shaped.
Except.
See, here's all of this down here.
We see the shading. That matches.
Yeah, it's down here where it doesn't match, down at this end.
Correct.
Yeah, I agree.
So that, the question is, it would just be the area covered by the conservation easement?
This is, what we need is we need to go, in my opinion, we need to go with this one that is tract F, which is the legal description of the conservation portion. Authorize attorney to proceed with preparing the maintenance agreement with the conditions that we just talked about to make sure that we're covered.
And there would be the maintenance easement for the district to maintain the exotics and vegetation in the area depicted on this sketch, which is a portion of tract F, which is encumbered by a conservation easement in favor of South Florida Water Management.
That's my motion.
With no cost to the property, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, with the condition also that the developer will, again, no discharge of any water from the adjacent site into this area.
That water, their water has to go into the pond.
I would just say no discharge into this site.
Okay.
Correct. All right, so
With that addition, that's my motion.
do you have a second? Second. Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, we need to get this, we need to get Tony, probably you to make the contact to Rick, to make the contact to Gateway LLC 2012. Let them know that we've consented to this with the conditions that we talked about.
Yep.
So I just don't want them coming out and causing us a work stoppage on our contractor, because with this issue on Gateway Boulevard, this could get very, very sensitive.
Understand. Thank you.
Thank you for getting that checking that out.
Well, thank you for mentioning to put on the agenda. Everything else flying around.
Okay, so any items to pull for consent agenda other than we
I think
documented that one?
There's one more item.
The golf cart resolution.
Oh, golf cart resolution,
Well,
sorry. I missed it.
we had a G and an,
Oh, the G was aquagenics.
Well, aquagenics, we already.
yeah, we already got. Thank you.
I think we have 4C.
Oh, okay, yeah.
We kind of,
Yeah, we bounced
Missed
around
that
a little bit. Yeah, golf cart resolution.
I just read it. What are we trying to do here?
We're trying, Ed, if I may, Phil,
Oh, hi, Phil.
I'm here.
hi. We're trying to, we're,
I don't
the
think
whole
you're,
golf cart world has expanded. There are many different colors being used, and we want to allow our people more flexibility as far as the color of their golf carts. Now, this, as you will notice, only applies to golf carts that are used in the community. The golf course is going to have to make its own rules, but this applies to golf carts used in the community. People can use more colors. They were very restricted before. Now they have a wide palette.
Community roads.
District
Correct.
Road.
Okay.
Introduce yourself.
I'm Teresa Phillips. I'm with PPAC. And I came to talk to you about this in case you had any
Teresa's the
questions.
author that ran it by PPAC.
What's that?
I think Teresa's the author of this.
Yes,
by
that's
PPAC.
correct.
And then allowed,
There were 2 hours of our meeting, and now she gets her chance.
and then she
Thank
allowed me
you,
to
Bob.
edit, she allowed me to edit her writing, so.
And so just so I'm clear, this is really just to edit color.
Color of the carts, color of the roof of the carts, and color of the
So
car seats.
aesthetic modification, but it doesn't
It
doesn't
does-
change operating.
All of the
Are they going to
same.
be able to look like Rolls Royces, Cadillacs, and all kinds of things?
No, the last provision specifically says there can't be any customized golf carts. This is just because we currently have many golf carts operating in Pelican that are different colors. They're not white or cream color. And as a consequence, they don't take their carts up to Castle to get a sticker and show proof of insurance. And my opinion was I would rather get hit by a red golf cart that I know has insurance than a cream color one that does not.
So you have a ticketing registration deal over there on
Yes.
carts. So do we just did this at Gateway. Gateway
Yes.
Greens.
Mhm.
Well, I went through it and, because we just went through this and some questions.
Mhm.
All golf carts must be manufactured Easy Go or equivalent. So you would allow a club car or a Yamaha.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's always been there, right? Just
Okay.
for-
Yeah, that hasn't changed.
Again, just stratification, The only edits are those underlined, which are additions, and the strike throughs are deletions. Everything else is currently in.
Okay, well, I'm new. I haven't had a chance to
Okay,
to
sorry.
talk to. All golf carts must be electric. You're ruling out gas,
Yes, and it's always been that way.
okay? And that you're having them with the requirements of the turn indicators and all of that stuff, even though they may not want to drive at night.
Yes,
So that's a mandatory deal, whether you drive at night or not.
yes, and that's always been there also.
And the reason for that is, the reason for that is.
Well,
because-
since I've been here.
Yeah, the reason for that is because they are on the district roads.
So they are considered LV, what is it?
No, they're not.
Two
those.
guys, they're
So
not.
they're not.
They're only
But-
considered LV if they're over 25 mile per hour.
They're not LV, but to drive on the district roads, they need to have all these.
So they
other-
are street legal.
Yes,
Mhm.
well,
And then the last one,
additional items to make them safer
so,
for.
so you want on number 8, you just want stock golf carts, period. You don't want customized any of that.
Yeah.
Well, there's already a provision in there that says they can be pinstriped and you can have your name on them and all that kind
I'm
of
talking
stuff.
about, 'cause I go over
We
there and play
just
golf
didn't
every once in a
want,
while, and I
uh,
see golf carts on that golf course that sure as hell don't meet this.
But you can't have fire engines and
How do they get to the golf course
Jeeps and
on
things
the
like that.
roads? How are they getting there?
Well, if they
So they're illegal
belong
like
to
that.
the golf club, they have to have a white or cream color golf cart. None of this it applies to all golf carts, but all golf carts are not included in this this amendment because they operate on the golf course and the course has their own rules.
Okay, well, the reason I asked is last time I was at the course, I saw some that it looked like a Cadillac.
Well, wait a minute.
But how
Well,
did
I
they-
haven't seen that.
Yeah, I
the
haven't seen
course
that
get
either.
to
The
course on
course
the road?
provides carts
Yeah, I know.
Mhm.
for the course
Yes.
that are not part of this.
Correct.
This is for the residents' carts. They may or may not play
Well,
golf.
that's not, that wasn't my question, where I was going. The people that are on the course that have these, what I would call exotic carts.
You have never seen an exotic cart on our golf
I've never seen it.
course.
Oh, man, I have. Now, it's been a year or two.
Well,
I've never seen it.
Unless you.
I've lived here since 2018. There's always been a provision
I think
in
it's
this. It's actually
Well,
2018-4 is the name of the resolution. It applies
my
specifically
reason
to
for bringing
Pelican
it up
Preserve.
is that if it's a moot point if they're not allowed. But my point was, as I saw them, my question was how they get there.
Beats us.
Never saw one.
No, that's not my question. My question is if they have these exotic carts, how did they get to the golf course? They had to go on
We
the
don't
roads.
believe we have any. I don't know what you saw.
Okay.
I don't either, Ed.
And
Yeah,
saying
19
is,
hole too long.
they may have driven on gateway roads, but they did so without being given the
That's what I thought was. my
ability
answer.
to do so.
Okay, that was my question.
So there might be someone that owns one of these. They're just not legal.
I doubt it.
Exactly.
I know of,
They're not.
yeah.
Then the other one is how did you get around the insurance? Because we ran into a nightmare on the insurance.
What, get around it how?
What form of?
Ed, speak into your microphone, please.
I'm sorry, Bill. What form of insurance? We had to go with several of them, like Allstate and some of those deals, gave us a certificate that they would guarantee that they had coverage, but they would not indemnify the golf course or the community. Do you require an indemnification of the community on the insurance certificate?
No.
Not being co-insured?
I mean, I am not aware of anything that requires that.
If you didn't do that, then you may not have a problem. We tried to have the community co-insured.
Mhm,
Insurance companies wouldn't touch us with a 10-foot pole.
mhm.
They said they wouldn't do
We
it.
just had standard liability 1-3 or something. like
Okay,
that.
yeah, that's what we did. Okay,
All right, any
that's all I
additional
had.
questions? Do I have a motion to approve?
I make a motion, we approve resolution 22-04.
I'll second it. I'm going back over there tomorrow to look for those damn golf carts.
You find it, call me.
I have a
And I'll take a picture too.
motion and a second. Call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Going back to-
I think Flavia's online.
Yeah, okay.
We
I'm
need
not
to
sure.
recognize her. I'll make
Yeah.
a motion that she participate.
Yes,
hi guys.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Flavia, what time did you join? Do you know? Just for record.
13 minutes ago.
Okay. Okay. Any consent agenda items to pull?
Mr. Chairman, if you could have a motion to allow Ms. Walsh.
We just did.
You
We
missed
did.
that?
We just did. Just did it. Any items to pull for consent agenda?
I had none.
Okay, motion to approve
I'll make that motion.
I second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
They were just late.
Okay.
I
all
think
right.
they were late.
Okay. So future board business, we'll skip that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this is Stephen Bloom. Just real quick, I apologize. I was a couple minutes late. Did the agenda item for 4F get removed?
Oh, we skipped that. 4F we didn't do.
Oh,
The real
For auditing
4F.
services and evaluation.
sorry. I will circle back, Stephen. Thank you. We kind
No
of
problem.
I checked it, but I think I meant to do the D, which was the other SRF. So anyway, so item 4,
Auditing. Services.
yes, 4F, RFP for auditing services and evaluation criteria.
I moved to, this is basically the methodology we used the last time as I read it. So
I think we added some more to it. I mean, as far as the.
Yeah, we added a single audit concept so that would cover the, we added a single audit concept so it would cover the SRF funding.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And I think also, Stephen, correct me if I'm wrong, also added confirm annual compliance with the adopted assessment methodology and review.
That's correct.
And review and recommendation on sufficiency of district reserve balances.
Correct. Yes, we added those as a part of the scope. For whoever would be bidding on this would include that in their scope. Those were a couple of the items that the board had requested in the past, as well as we talked with, we spoke with Laura. She confirmed that as well.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Fantastic. Okay. Just getting back to future board business, just wanted to let everyone know that November 8th is the President's Council. We are going to have it at the Stony Brook Clubhouse from 4 to 6, it looks like. We're just pinning down the agenda. We'll kind of share once that gets pinned down. You guys can we'll share it with everyone.
Okay, and that invitation is going out to the various presidents and telecom.
Yes, sir.
And that's an open workshop, correct? That's for anybody can show up.
Absolutely open to the public. After anybody.
I've had people ask about that.
Yeah, and I think it's important that the access control folks be aware of that fact, that anybody can come in. Any member of the public can get to the Stony Brook Gates to attend that President's Council. Yeah. And George will be there to take minutes. I'm just volunteering here.
Okay. Supervisor comments. I will, Bill, I'll start with you online.
Thank you, but I have nothing right now.
Okay. Flavia?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I do have one thing. I want to make sure that our new manager, Gary, has been brought up to speed on the business with the water meters that we've been having too much difficulty with. Because he's going to be here for a while, he's going to have to get into it, and Laura or somebody needs to take him to school on what's been going on.
Okay.
Good point, Mr. Guy. I'll get with Laura and with Gary to spend a couple hours with him.
Mike wants Scott involved also.
Okay, Scott also.
Thank you.
Good point.
Good
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. So Scott, we're adding, so make that 8, adding something else to your plate there, buddy. Okay, Bob, I'll go to you.
In August, the board received a review of surface water system maintenance standards from a company called ATM. And I would like to make a motion that we have staff prepare a proposed revision to our pond standards based upon this report.
Mr. Chairman, if you could, if we're going to have any action, open that item up for comment by the public since it's not an agenda item, but it's an action item.
Yeah, that to me needs to be at a meeting where other people know this is coming. I'd say let's put that on the agenda for the next meeting.
You want to finish what you have, Bob?
Well, the 80-page document we received from ATM, but if that's out of order with the procedure for.
Well, no, it's not out of order. The board can say they want to take it up and as an action item, but just open it up to the public to make comments on it before the board takes action.
Didn't we do that when it was reported?
No, as far as the.
Public,
we
I
got
don't
it?
think had it.
Oh,
Public,
okay, whatever.
Can I suggest that we start with a workshop and then see what comes out of that?
That's
That'll
what
be
I-
absolutely fine.
I'd like to do that. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Alright.
because we
So
said
Jordan,
that
can you
before.
just make a note to Laura that we need to schedule a workshop specific to the pond standard and
The ATM report.
any modification as a result of the ATM or any current state?
Is that
Okay.
going to be at the next board meeting
Let's just look
The
at
workshop?
scheduling.
or separate?
The quicker the better,
No,
I
it would
think.
be during one of the board meetings, I'd say.
Because that what Bob's talking about is going to have ramifications on the specifications for pond maintenance.
So
Big time.
ideally the next board meeting or at the latest, the board meeting after that, but,
Okay, that's all I had.
Mr. Single?
Yeah, I had several things here. Tony, the 558 letter, is it, did we get it?
Going out
sent?
tomorrow.
Going out tomorrow. Okay, that I think Scott and Gary need to be up to
Yep.
speed. Daniels Preserve, met yesterday with Gary, and then Scott had just happened to come in and Laura was there. And I'm very concerned of where we were headed at the last meeting, basically going on ahead with that MRI, MPI, MXY, whatever the name of that other company was, that we talked about $250,000 emergency spending.
Yeah.
I was in favor of that, all on the premise that I was told, and I've been told all along from Brian, just where it started, was that 48-inch pipe and the others were full,
And there was no other option.
but they're not full. They're not full at all. One of the options that Rick Brylansky brought up was utilizing the 48-inch section out in the middle of the road. And I said, wait, how can you use it in the middle of the road when it's full? Well, it's not full, but everywhere. Well, Scott and I got talking about is how in the hell are we making decisions of spending $250,000 when we don't have the answers? So my deal is, and I think Scott, or not my deal, it's Scott's idea, and I think it's a great one. Let's get a diver in there and find out how many feet of debris and what the debris is before we go and tear up the hell out of these 6 or 8 yards of putting in a new pipe, when it may be that we can get in there and clean the existing sewer.
Yeah.
And then at the end modify it. So my thing is at Daniels Reserve, rather than rushing ahead with that deal that we were a week or 2 weeks ago on the premise that these pipes are full, when in fact we don't know that for a fact.
Yeah, and I talked to Scott earlier too, and I think he's got some input on that. So what I
Yeah.
would say is, I don't know if we
I'd
need
let
to- I
him
don't know
have
if
some
we-
time.
Is
I don't
this
know if we need-
sewage or storm?
Storm sewer,
Yeah,
storm sewer.
yeah.
Storm sewer. Okay.
Storm sewer.
So what
Yeah.
I would like to do, I don't know if we need a motion or anything, but I would just say, look, we're gonna halt any board progress on that particular item.
I'd
Yeah,
let
I
him
guess,
get.
and I guess the question is, has the agreement or contract been signed? Do we know?
No.
Okay,
So-
This circles back to the core belief of keeping your inspection separate from the guy that's going to clean it.
That is it.
'Cause
And he and I talked about
Because
that.
that's how we operate in Pelican.
I-
I advocated that a number of times. You don't want the guy that's going to pick your pocket being telling you what he needs to pick. Let one guy who has no equity in it inspect it, and then somebody else.
Well, I'll tell you, I feel his fingers in my back pants.
No, I did all
Yeah.
along without
Yeah.
even knowing.
We're all in
I
agreement.
would make sure that we don't proceed with any action until, Scott, you've had time to do your due diligence and get input from parties. And if there's action that needs to be taken, I guess, just we'll find out as
Yeah.
soon as you can come up with that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree. Haven't heard a word. What happened to Worthington? Did they fall off the face of the earth? Are they responding back of how they're going to do stuff or what? Nothing. And then the last one I had is, where are we at on the 3 critical projects to the community? The I-75 crossing, the weirs, the adjustable weirs and the bypass force main. What are we waiting on any of those? Does anybody know? FPL easement for the force main. What's the problem? Who's working on it?
I think Fred, Kenny, and I had a call the other day about that.
What, Fred?
Middle. Middle is our penalty.
You mean, what, Tetra Tech? Well, is it just a matter of going to FPL and getting an easement? What?
Or the consent of use. That's the
Yeah.
conversation. I guess there were some prior conversations Chris had with them or not, right?
Have-
Waiting for them to
Well,
approve or say they will.
well, today was the discussion out there at the hole shows just how critically important having that line down that FPL easement is. We have no backup for essentially 90% of our community to get its sewage to the treatment plant. We have no backup, none.
Can we put that on Scott's plate also? Help us.
Well, I think, why can't somebody just call FPL? You're not to 20 yet. We're at 18 and counting.
That's only what we told you when it came on.
Did he buy that? Somebody needs to check on that because that's critical. We got to get that pipe going.
Yeah, well, Kenny and I will nudge. Yeah, Kenny and I will nudge Fred to get that and work with Kenny.
And then the other one is
Well, I mean, is some of this, Scott, is some of the stuff we can have Gary follow up with? I mean, I know he doesn't really have a utilities background.
Yes.
Well, we just need somebody to stay on top of it.
Yeah,
I think,
Scott,
to Ed's
essentially
point.
what we're doing is putting a force main all the way down the FPL easement to be able to tie into the plant.
Scott Connell. Danny Nelson called me last week about it. I was out of town. He called and said, "Look, can we get together this week and speak with Danny and Fred and
Great.
You know, the rest of us here about getting easements for the FPL. And also they talked about the easement that you talked about earlier off of Griffin for the current utility project, the force main work that's going on now. So spoke briefly with Fred with Tetra Tech today, this afternoon. And we're going to regroup next week on that. Right now, he's got his hands full with this bore elevation issue. And if I may, just what I've heard regarding the weirs, as you referenced, I spoke with Danny earlier today, and that is in the works with them, putting that together as far as developing the
Because I thought the plans were basically done.
I think they were until we threw in.
You threw in
39.
Pond.
Oh, yeah, Pond 38.
38.
38, I think that's.
So
messed up.
there's, you know, I think he got a, what do you call it? The engineering provision to do the work, the authorization.
Yes.
Task authorization.
Work order.
Thank you, thank
Yeah,
you.
we've approved.
And so he is starting to gear up on that. And, you know, there's a lot that goes into those things. Like at 38, you've got to do a lot of surveying, you've got to do the permitting, water management, et cetera, et cetera. So
Okay.
it's,
I just didn't let that drop because we lucked out this year. Knock on wood that we can make another 2 weeks with no
but he and
storm.
I did speak about that.
And we'd like to do it in the dry season of 22.
Bingo. I
I mean,
agree. I agree.
Physically, at Pond 38, it's a simple thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you have to get all the
It's the
design
paperwork.
and.
That's the
and
easiest. The
approval.
other twos aren't nearly as easy.
No, they are
Right,
not.
the other ones are major. Yes.
And then the last one I had is that, don't know if everybody saw it in the paper, but map 5 got approved. That was brought up at the last meeting on the redistricting. So we're saved here as far as our district and our
preferred.
representation. That in my opinion is our best advantage. If they switch to some of those others, our voice isn't gonna get heard at all.
Yeah, okay. That's great. Great
That's
news.
all I had.
Okay, yeah, and I don't have anything. So thanks everyone for joining today. I will call the meeting adjourned at 5:27.